Clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Yeah, alrighty, boob tubes, another one of Kip's clips. So some more daily PoliTITS. And doesn't seem to be any dull days on the news cycle at the moment. So we get the SMP stuff that's happening. Humza. There's a song in there somewhere. Humza. Anyway, he's resigned. The contenders for the next leader of the SMP will materialise in the next couple of weeks. And there was two motions, there was two no confidence motions that were going to get tabled. One for Humza and one for Humza and one for the SNP. So the one for Humza, does he apply anymore because he's jumped before he was pushed? And the vote of no confidence in the government, the SNP government, will be interesting. So, in the morning, everybody, if you do enjoy these wee shindigs, stick a wee thumbs up, share it, friends, family, foes, and all that jazz. So, we've had a lovely wee early morning knife attack, so can't whack it.
Or share footage online, but of course lots and lots of footage.
But what I can do, like, I'm pretty sure I've been keeping a half an eye on it in the last half hour. Pretty sure for the last half hour, the BBC's constantly just done this knife attack. In fact, that's when the first protocol will be, top of our news, because we want to
has been say that this incident doesn't appear. A 36-year-old man who was arrested at the...
Right, I'll give you the synopsis without having to listen to the BBC say it in some gobbledygook language that nobody really speaks. Car driven into a property, 7 o'clock in the morning. A guy's materialised with a sword, either from the car or from the house or what have you. 5 people have been hurt. I think 2 of them are police officers. BBC and the police are telling you endlessly, people, stop speculating on social media. While the BBC speculate, while telling you not to speculate on social media. So they're allowed to speculate, but you're not, apparently. But I actually do agree, people shouldn't speculate at times like this, because ultimately people are stupid. And they could, like for example, Tommy Robinson and all the paedophile hunters, they could be genuinely fucking up legal cases to get paedophiles locked up for reals, and not just a social media virtue signalling campaign. So,
at least two police were injured in this incident.
2 cops, 5 people getting treated.
The police say an update on the condition of those who have been injured, but
early morning my ass in Australia. What time are you guys? Well, Australia's get more than one time zone, innit?
In custody, so you can
But
see
imagine
here,
yous have got to be a good 10 hours ahead of us or some shit.
Actually released, giving us those details of this incident in Hainault, which happened at around 7 o'clock.
First, I want to laugh at this guy's wig. Then I'll cut through all the bullshit. I told you everything that they were going to spend half an hour telling you. Right, that is a fucking wig. Sorry to go on about this, man, but I think it's hilarious.
And thank you to the...
It's to say, our thoughts go out to the community and the families and friends. It's the same old meaningless PR drivel.
A big police operation to get as McLaughlin.
Right, let's get the money shot. Here's the money shot.
That this has been declared a serious incident.
And remember, don't speculate or share any clips or anything online. But here's a clip from online brought to you by the BBC.
Seen that this all unfolded around 7 o'clock this morning with reports of a car hitting a home in that.
Now, this is just me being pernickety, and I've only really watched maybe half an hour of this shite so far, but they keep referring to what he's got in his hand as a knife, right? It's one of those wee katana Japanese swords by the looks of things. Certainly ain't a fucking claymore. And they keep referring to it as a knife. It just annoys me.
That area near Hainault in northeast London.
Although they say it's sword.
These images that have been verified in the last 15 minutes or so of the alleged attacker there with a large knife being described by police as a sword. They said that
I'm not even joking you, man. That honestly made me want to go and Google what's the Hold on, I've got my brain with me. Let's ask the brain. What's the difference between a knife and a sword?
These came back from a search.
I wanted her to tell me. Artificial intelligence. So this is all you've got, and they'll play this 15 seconds clip with that. Right, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15, boom, on the money. 15-second clip, and they'll just endlessly play it. And if I was quicker at the traps, but I was fanning about in the flat, I was going to make a video before that footage get released and all that jazz, and I was going to say how long before Tommy Robinson starts reposting Twitter accounts saying it was a Muhammad, fucking marauding Muhammad again, bet you. But anyway, it looks like a fucking white dude, could be East European, maybe. Certainly doesn't look like an Abdul.
A residential part of London with a sword of that size. They will question why this is not being considered terrorism. So I wanted to just go through with you the definition.
Right, this is the BBC saying this stuff. Now, I don't have a high opinion of myself, but I feel that this is like fucking talking down to people. The police say it's not terrorism because there was a guy running around with a sword. So, let's go and look at the definition of terrorism. Is it because I'm fucking been bought deep in the Truther Industrial Complex for so long that I think I knew in fact, because of Glasgow and all the IRA shit and all that, I'm pretty sure most people know the definition of terrorism, you know? It's a bit ski whiff now. It's definitely changed and morphed a wee bit now, but here's for this dumbed down stupid Winnie Lickers.
The UK government uses in terms of defining terrorism and what it is.
Yeah, it'd be the definition you'd find in the dictionary, hen. Yeah, the British government are so fucking special, they define what words are.
Is a use of threat which must be for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial or ideological cause. So that is the UK.
Right, so a guy fucking drives into a house, bounces out with a sword and starts attacking cunts. Like, I don't even need to explain what it looks like on the surface. 7 o'clock in the morning, do you know what I mean? Guy's lost his shit, went to chop 5 people up, first thing.
Government definition of terrorism that the use or threat must be for the purpose.
Right, you're just repeating yourself, hen. Right, so there's Google Earth. Nice to see you doing your Google Earth, and then some still pictures. The best part about this newscast so far, that guy's Barnett.
From the Home Secretary, James Cleverly. He said that he's being regularly updated about the incident at Hainault Station. He says, my thoughts are with those who've been affected and thank you to the emergency responders. I would urge people not to speculate or share footage online and provide relevant information.
As the BBC are just showing you pictures of the alleged attacker.
From the Home Secretary, he mentioned the emergency responders, of course, not only the police, but London Ambulance Service and London Fire Brigade also sent to the incident. London Fire
Aye,
Brigade
man, there's
coming
no
up.
way that isn't a wig.
Firefighters assisted
Aye, hold on, that'll be his name, the wig.
the incident,
Or Wigfield.
in Hainault, which is in the east of London.
Wiggy.
You can see from this map,
I used to have
it's
a
built-up area. There is a
friend,
lot of
a guy I knew
housing
back in the day.
in that
His
area,
name is
and this
Wigfield and he was called
this
Wiggy.
incident happened. Police
But
say
he didn't have a
around
wig, so it was
7
alright.
o'clock this morning to the reports that
Katana.
there has
Aye,
been
that's what I was. That's the word I was looking
they
for.
say
What they
that,
those
there
with
was
Japanese
a
swords.
sword, and a man has been arrested. As you can see, this is the statement from the police with that detail.
So it must be
saying
true.
that, at this time, we understand the suspect went on to attack other members of the public and 2 police officers. Now, this is footage that was on social media, and of course, when these incidents happen, a lot of footage is posted on social media. But the team at BBC
Mate, the wig is redonkulous. It really is redonkulous. But well, that's your town, Roberto. So just listening to the information that's out there now, like. It's obviously, for me, it's obviously not terrorism. It's some sort of a revenge grudge attack. Something happened the night before. He found out something. Maybe he found out the guy was shagging his wife or something. And if you look closely at the footage when it starts, there's cops or ambulances at the very least around there. I think that looks like an ambulance.
Running towards danger. The mayor goes on to say that he remains in constant contact with the commissioner, and that, as we've been reporting, a man has been arrested.
That's not an eye. This is an eye.
The mayor reiterating what the police were saying, which is that they are not looking for anyone else in connection with this incident. Sadiq Khan goes on to say that there will be additional reassurance patrols in the area. So the statement says the police officers...
There's no threat to the community. It's not terrorism related, but we're going to put some high-vis PSOs or whatever they're called. You know, the fake coppers.
I would urge people not to speculate until the
Not to
details of this
speculate.
incident are
Yeah.
confirmed.
Right, so I swear to God, look how much time they're devoting to something. How many people do you think have died in Syria, Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, and the time it's took them to show you the exact same photographs, still photographs, video clips, none of them any more than 30 seconds, clearly from mobile phones, which they would obtain from fucking social media, while telling you to don't speculate on social media. Beautiful. And then, here's the money shot. It's going to get endlessly burned into fucking people's retinas. Why the hell have they got that on loop? What does that bring to the table other than titillation? Oh, did you see that cunt with the sword on the fucking street, man? Oh, that man, this is fucking titillation cannon fodder, man. No deaths, mate. 5 in the hospital, no deaths. As known reported deaths as of yet. 2 cops, 3 members of the public. So, sounds like he drove into a house, bounced out the motor with a fucking sword, managed to get a hold of 3 cunts. Who they are or whatnot will come out in the wash, no doubt. And 2 coppers have been, well, I'd imagine they've got a few chops. Reports said that people were getting stabbed. But if you've got a fucking sword like that, you're not really going to be stabbing people. It's not going, on guard! On guard! Ooh, fucking day in a jail, man. You'd be like fucking swinging that fucker, man, to chop cunts up. That's how I've known it to be used. None of this fucking stabbing shit. But there's a difference between you probably want to get chopped up more than stabbed, because it'll look worse, but you're probably going to survive a lot easier. You know, your bones will do what they're signed for. Keep your body together. I had 2 duelists in my street the other week. Big mace. And the other had a sword, a lot of grousing. Mate, I bet you're not even fucking lying about that, man. I bet you that's not even a joke. No lying. A joke. Stabbed his wife, so he wanted to stab him. Oh, hold on, is that? Was the guy slicing and dicing over a bird? Well, by the cut of the guy's jib, right, it's either gang, gang, drug, or woman related, innit? Maybe he woke up in the morning, got a hold of his missus' phone, seen what was going on, like that, straight in the motor with his fucking sword off the fucking wall, like that. Remember, don't speculate, people! Welcome to the BBC. Police not looking for more subjects, but you might get some police officers out in bunny uniforms to just make you feel a wee bit safer. Stabbed his wife, so he went to stab her back. Hit two jewelers. I don't know. Honestly, really, it's just annoying how they can say so much, use so many words, and say fuck all. And why they're going to have that on? That's half an hour. One story, half an hour. I mean, it's obviously a fucking notable story, but to waste the whole top of the hour news.
Are remaining able to avoid the scene there streets, and it's believed that was Keir Starmer from.
It's almost as if they're trying to bury bad news.
This is
right. That's more than half an hour now. They are taking the piss. We've got a man on the street standing in front of is that Charlie Beach?
Kind of information in this.
Hey, I'll stand in front of the cops. It's really good for my videography career.
At the moment is a sense of calm, the sense of shock. Usually,
I mean, he does get. I said he could be Eastern European defo, man. He could be a touch of the brown about him, man.
The details of those injured to be announced. We don't know that anyone's been injured critically. We await all these details, but these are the kinds of
unicorn, definitely. You could like, it's kind of grainy footage. So he's white looking, or he's got a touch of brown about him. You know, what could maybe be like Italian descent or fucking something like that. You know, but I'm pretty sure it will come out in the. Well, if he's been arrested and charged, he'll be in court tomorrow. We'll get his name then. British white.
Thurlow Gardens around the corner here. He's unable to access his church at the moment. He hasn't heard from any members of his congregation, but obviously aware of the news from social media as well. So I think everybody here will pretty much be aware of what's happened, first from social media and now from the reports that are going out.
Right, let me see if I can get that footage again, right?
Be being inundated with quite a lot of
the public there, but they are being.
There's the bit they were endlessly.
Here.
Oh, there we go, right?
On social media, showing the
Looks a wee bit like the Rangers player, Raskin. And what the fuck is Raskin again? I think he's Belgium. No, is he for fucking one of the ex-Soviet states? But, you could see him like Albanian maybe, you know, a touch of the brown. Or you could see white as well, you know, it's this grainy and no good fucking lighting and all that jazz. But certainly, maybe he's Japanese. That's why he's got a katana. But I think that's as good as we're going to get at the moment. So it is grainy. Could be white, could be a touch of the brown. Not a brown man in boat, but just a touch of East European brown. Greek. The centre. Fucking London's a cocktail of all sorts, isn't it? Right, let's see if they're still on this.
A reminder that there has been a serious incident in the Hainault area of...
Reminder! Fucking reminder! He's a bit on fucking loop for 50 fucking minutes. Fucking haircut. That's what I'm going to call him, haircut. Best one's happened, actually.
5 people have been injured and taken to hospital. That includes...
Now, see all the shite that you've heard on the BBC, the bits that I've actually managed to play. Has it told you anything other than what I said in like 30 seconds? It's ridiculous.
Police officers, a 36-year-old man...
Right. Surely, oh man. That's going to be wall to wall right. Something else is happening in the world. That's all I'm saying.
Not alone in this effort. You saw our joint statement, the joint statement last week with the 17 other world leaders demanding that Hamas release our citizens without delay. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations. It is a...
Hey, I heard there was a guy with a sword in London, hen. Don't you know? Stop the press. Okay, there's Al Jazeera even at it. No, hold on, is it? No, that'll be the Gaza shit.
And the courts, new powers.
It's not a human right to vandalise property. It's not my freedom of expression to protest violently. No, you can't just start a riot or glue yourself to the roads and get away.
She's talking about Tommy Robinson, I'm sure it.
Away with it.
Critics call these measures a threat to long-standing democratic freedoms. The government says they are needed because recent protests by a minority of activists have been dangerous, draining public funds and diverting police resources. What do you think about these new laws and bills and the effect?
Okay, you go to Doha and you're still getting the just stop oil fucking rhetoric for the news organisations. Whether that's news. Hen, you're standing still. What's going on? Yeah, that's ABC, man. I've yet to come across anything of merit on that channel. Pro-Palestinian protests. Where's the meat?
Of Palestine, it could fall into the same category. I know there's a huge amount of the population from Spain to
London
and Ireland who are considering it, but and also I think Norway was willing perhaps to give some vague commitment.
Right. I love a bit of weird news, especially when it's brought to you by Rupert Murdoch.
Retriever. In fact, it reminds me of a story of a guy in Sacramento, California, who would take his little dog with him to work, and one day the dog disappeared. He believed that the dog had been stolen. The dog was taken all the way to Tacoma, Washington, where it was let loose. And he drove from Sacramento. That's about a 12-hour drive from Sacramento to Tacoma, Washington to get that dog.
Oh, I would as well. Yeah.
I was there. He was very happy to
a dog. So, interesting things. The BBC just happened, coincidentally, to be on a Filipino ship that's playing chicken with the Chinese in the South China Sea. Because the Filipino new guys cozied up to America and they're trying to further their claims on territorial waters in that neck of the wood. So that's good. This happened a wee while ago as well. It's happening constantly actually, but let you see them.
Well, we've been on board this Philippines ship sailing for several hours towards Scarborough Shoal, being shadowed by these Chinese Coast Guard vessels. This one is just...
Why wouldn't there be a BBC reporter on a Filipino vessel that's just about to go and play chicken with the Chinese? Why wouldn't there be? Happens all the time. Happens all the time. It's not that the Filipino vessel are deliberately going there to try and provoke the Chinese. No. Of course not. Anyway, let's have a wee look. You can see the water cannon stuff and all.
Fired its water cannon over the past 20 minutes, blasting the decks. It's smashed up the awning here at the back of this Philippine ship. It was a thunderous sound as it hammered the sides of the ship. It's now stopped. There's another couple of Coast Guard ships behind us. At the moment, we are hemmed in with 3 Coast Guard ships around us. We are being shadowed. You can see over there 1 Chinese Coast Guard ship on that side. There are 3 or 4 behind us. There are in fact so many Chinese ships in this area. We've seen some very aggressive tactics by these Chinese Coast Guard ships. The one you can see over there was water cannoning us. We were all herded inside when that happened. They also cut very, very close, right across the bow of the ship. We don't know quite what these ships are going to do, but we're waiting to see whether they come for us again.
They come for us again. Oh, I was just here on my holidays. Right, let's see where the Scarborough So you've got China. Where was that? Right, so it's just off the coast. Well, you could say it's between China and the Philippines, and that's why they're playing chicken. That looked cool. Is that the older one? 5th of March. Aye, just went on to that must have been the first one I clocked. Anywho, let's see if there's anything other than the stabbing going on. Oh, local elections, thank fuck they're actually talking about news.
I think there are communities, there are keep hold of a mayor like Ben Hainault.
President here, it is not something that it's not terrible.
There is going, and we're going to let police officers, a 36-year-old. Old man has been arrested and is in custody. Now, police say they were called to reports of a man with a sword on the condition
Fuck's sake, haircut.
The mayor of London issued a statement saying that he was absolutely devastated by the attack, and he thanked the emergency services for what he said was running towards danger. To the latest, and of course it is, and in Hartlepool. Charlotte, I wondered if I could start with elected in England. Let's as it could give us a day. There are local statements, so you can get the latest there by heading to bbc.co.uk/news or on
talk
the app.
about
We
padding.
will return to the latest on that situation in Hainault very shortly, but first we want to turn to politics, because Thursday there are local elections which take place across England, and there are also crime and police commissioner elections in both England and Wales, along with mayoral elections. And of course it is getting even closer attention, all of these elections, by the political pundits and the parties alike, as it could give us a taste of what's to come at the general election, which of course is likely to take place this year. Thursday will see voters asked to make their choices on council seats, and as I said, police and crime commissioners, and in some areas mayors, 10 mayors being elected in England. Let's talk more about this, as we have been over the last few days, with different political editors across the BBC. And Charlotte Wright is from BBC South East, and she is in Tunbridge Wells. And we're also joined by Richard Moss from BBC North East and Cumbria in Hartlepool. Charlotte, I wondered if I could start with you, if you could give us a sense of the issues that are mattering to the people where you are.
Well, it's really interesting, because I think when you think of the southeast of England, you think of Tory territory, of the blue wall. It's actually much more nuanced than that when it comes to councils in our region, particularly over the past few years, and particularly the councils that are up for election this time around. So take Tandridge in East Surrey, leafy East Surrey. The Conservatives lost their majority on the council there back in 2019. And what we've seen there is a rise in independent councillors and residents' associations. And one of the really big issues there is house building. It's an area where there are 2 areas of outstanding natural beauty. A large part of it is greenbelt. And a lot of people who live locally are very worried about what they see as overdevelopment, pressure on their green spaces, and also on infrastructure. And so we've seen leading a sort of coalition of parties is sewage, and it's a particular meeting times for GP appointments.
All control.
Yes, that's right. There is a battle here for the council. The Conservatives Independents run it as a minority at the moment, but Labour, as you say, only need 1 seat. Fairly low ambition, really. They probably will hope to do much better than that. But it's also part of the Tees Valley area, which has the crucial mayoral election on Thursday as well. Now, Ben Hainault, the Conservative incumbent as mayor, won with 73% of the vote last time this election was held in 2021. It's fair to say it's probably unlikely to win by that amount this time, but will he win at all? That's what Labour want to do. They want to unseat him. They believe there will be huge symbolism in removing what is effectively the poster boy for levelling up for the Conservatives. Their candidate Chris McEwen shooting for them, also standing here, Liberal Democrat Simon Thorley, and that would cause huge problems for Rishi Sunak if Ben Hainault lost. A lot of his enemies within the parliamentary party would say, look, if he can't keep hold of a mayor like Ben Hainault in Tees Valley, he has no chance of avoiding a huge defeat at a general election, so it would pile pressure on him. But of course, just if if the Conservatives do win here, Labour will say, well, look, this was a very localised vote, nothing to do with the general election, but they are gunning for him. They've sent Keir Starmer here, they've sent many shadow cabinet members here. They do want to try and win this election. Ben Houchin says he believes he has a record on
Things like Israel.
This is like Newcastle by a huge bin strike there, which has caused huge problems.
And Red Crescent spokesperson Tommaso Della Longa is calling on the world to take action before even more innocent lives are lost.
After 6 months of all of this, more than 6 months of all of this, we really need to sit down, international community need to sit down and put again humanity at the beginning of every single discussion, because what has happened till now, it's simply not correct. No humanitarian agency is able to give a dignified response to the immense need of the Gaza Strip. We could argue that the situation in some of the last days and weeks was slightly improving, arriving at 250 and 200 trucks of humanitarian aid entering every day in the Gaza Strip, but is way far from what is needed. Humanitarian needs are immense. Every minute that this conflict goes ahead, the needs will increase. And then there is another very important part. It's not enough to bring humanitarian aid to open a gate. Then you need to create an environment where it's possible to operate, where it's safe for humanitarian workers to operate, but where it's also safe for civilians to get what they need. It's not safe, and I would say it's barely safe. And this is a huge problem and a huge matter of frustration. In our Cross Crescent network, we had to update 22 times the number of the volunteers and staff and colleagues killed. 22 women and men have been killed in 6 months, 4 of the Magen David Adom in Israel, and 18 of Palestine Red Crescent, both in Gaza and lastly even in the West Bank. And I think that this is really a clear icon, a stark reminder of where the violence of this conflict arrived, where not even humanitarian workers are respected.
And the UN once again is sounding the alarm over the shockingly high number of children killed in Gaza. Now, just to compare, during the 14-year war in Iraq, more than 3,000 minors were killed. Another recent conflict in Yemen claimed at least 3,700 young lives in just over 7 years. But those numbers are dwarfed by the toll of 13,000 children who've died in the bombing of Gaza in just the past 6 months. Some countries, including Saudi Arabia, want to see Israel held accountable.
The ministers stressed the need for the international community to impose effective sanctions on Israel, including stopping the export of weapons to it in response to its violation of international law, international humanitarian law, and the war crimes it is committing in Gaza and the occupied West Bank.
Well, for their part, Western leaders are now urging Hamas to agree to a 40-day ceasefire proposal, calling it a generous offer from Israel.
It does seem to me there is now, let's be frank, a pretty generous offer of, sustained 40-day ceasefire, the release of potentially thousands of Palestinian prisoners in return for the release of these hostages who've now been in captivity for over 200
Language matters. One's a prisoner, one's a hostage.
days. So I hope Hamas do take this deal, and frankly all the pressure in the world and all the eyes of the world should be on them today, saying take that deal.
Hamas has before it a proposal that is extraordinarily generous on the part of Israel. And in this moment, the only thing standing between the people of Gaza and a ceasefire is Hamas. They have to decide, and they have to decide quickly.
To begin with the term generous offer by Israel, I mean, those of us who know history know that the term did not start with Blinken, but rather started with the Clinton administration during the so-called peace talks in Camp David many years ago, when Ehud Barak was the Prime Minister of Israel and Yasser Arafat was the head of the PLO, where Yasser Arafat refused Israel's idea of a Bantustan kind of peace. And the outcome was the Americans accused him of failing to accept an Israeli generous offer. Somehow the Israelis continue to make these...
I'm not 100% sure, right, and I might stand corrected. Was Livingston no built around the same time as Cumbernauld as a new town? For overspills and fucking all the homeless and shit after World War II? Might be wrong. I can't ever remember being, but am I getting mixed up with Milton Keynes? Is it all roundabouts and bridges and underpasses like Scumbernauld, mate? I've never been.
Generous offers and the ungrateful Palestinians, and behind them an ungrateful international community refuses to bow down to Israel's generosity.
Limited ceasefire.
What kind of a generous offer is this that calls for a limited ceasefire in an area that has been almost entirely
London.
destroyed by
He's
American
Scottish,
and
I
Israeli
bet you.
weapons? When you have 70% to 80% of the entire civilian
to a taser, and of course taser is not 100%.
Told you we rule the world. Yeah. Toodle pip. And just like magic, you know, and call me sceptical, but the BBC has obtained documents that suggest Iran killed and molested a lassie. Poof, just like that, out of the blue. Yeah. And the world we stay, you just do not know what to believe, what weighs up. Telegraph up for sale after takeover collapses. The Daily and Sunday Telegraph are back on sale after Abu Dhabi backed bid collapsed. The ownership of the papers was set to be transferred to the Gulf-backed Redbird before the government intervened in January. I fucking think so, man. Fuck's sake, it's no fucking football clubs, it's fucking money talks, man, and they just come in and buy everything. We should do what we've done with the Chiners, and I think maybe we're doing this to a certain extent with 5G. Come on in, China, give us all your 5G technology. Thank you, now we're putting you. Now we've back engineered and got all your tips and tricks on the 5G network. Stevenage or Luton. What about Milton Keynes, mate? Is Milton Keynes not a new town as well, and it's all runabouts and underpasses and shit? I might be wrong, but I'm at the arsehole of the West End of Glasgow, mate. Correct. The southern equivalent is Stevenage or Luton. Fife, Aberdeenshire, Perth, Falkirk. Anywho's, where the fuck is stabbings? Back to the stabbings. Stabbings! No, it's no stabbings. Death and destruction brought to you by Fox. Tornadoes! What's this going to be? Gaza dead bodies, thank you very much. Pretty looking lady telling you how bad weather is.
Students chanting "Free Palestine" and urging the institution to condemn Israel. The student protest that initially started at an American university has spread to campuses in other countries, including Italy, the UK, Canada, and Australia.
Shut them down! They hate us for our freedoms.
Here in our Tehran studio to talk about the ongoing U.S. campus protest in favor of the righteous cause of Palestinians.
In favour of the righteous cause of Palestinians. Man, come on, at least pretend to be a wee bit fair and balanced, man.
We're giving money to other countries to help destabilize
it.
What
the fuck is it with the green people that are no fucking what they say in the tin? That's not good, innit?
Subject to
and I've seen the Greens talking about what happened with SNP recently, and again it was another woman boy thing. You're like, why? What's that got to do with the green agenda? Cutting off a cock at a cock at a time is going to save the planet.
Over the course of the last 6 months of polling, his numbers
That's
have
a dude, isn't it?
steadily dropped until now.
They got a fucking Popeye the Sailor Man
It's very
tattoo.
clear that the American people win.
Must have been a skater boy when he was before he retired his dick.
Base. Perhaps there's no neutrality in media anywhere, but in the United States, at least, it's fairly polarized, and I think that
I'm assuming
both sides of the coverage are
the
weird,
thing,
strange, and
cousin
myopic
stick with
because
that.
they're not representative of what's going on.
I will say cousin it. Is that Green Party co-chair?
There's no evidence to
and then
support this.
let me see if I can figure it.
Media, you'll see these claims of
Green.
police are targeting.
I'd never realised that, caught that before in my life. Why there's like, it's all fucking about tranny stuff in the Green Party.
And know that most of this isn't
Let me see if I can find this
on the ground. It's driven by
lady
politicians
thing.
and rich money interests that have no concern for us whatsoever.
Nah, you're only going to get the main hitters, aren't you?
Lionel
Probably.
says silencing the protesters will only lead to more dissent.
If an idea or a thought is likely to incite violence and
Oh, I love this guy. He's got his wee fucking specs and these red braces.
Violence, then speech can be stopped. But because speech is hurtful or problematic or is a trigger warning or causes somebody
Tintin or something had those wee round
to
glasses.
have microaggressions, and we have all of these words. Let
Every buzzword in the
speak.
conspirator dictionary, man.
But what we're doing is we're
She
lionizing.
in
We're
this.
actually we're causing this apotheosis of these protesters who are actually recruiting more people because what they want to do is they want to address why they're not able to speak versus what they want to speak about in the first place. And listen to this. They're now talking about bringing in the National Guard, basically the military. So military, I'm thinking, Kent State, why do you want to bring in the military? Because somebody's wearing a funny hat and beating a drum and you don't
Freedom!
like what they say?
They hate us for our fucking freedoms. Never forget
So
that.
what? If you don't like it, leave. Don't listen. Counter protest. They're students.
He's a character and a half, isn't
the
he?
marketplace of free ideas. College, universities. This is where you want to inspire intellectual revolution. But remember, violence, violence, violence. No, no, no. I can't. What is happening?
The United States says it opposes an international criminal court investigation into Israeli actions in Gaza as it has no jurisdiction.
So we've been really clear about the ICC investigation. We do not support it. We don't believe.
Oh, I never noticed that, mate. I never noticed that.
I'm just going to leave it there.
Symbol.
Well, that comes amid reports that Israeli officials fear the Hague-based tribunal could soon issue arrest warrants. Interestingly, last year, the White House supported an arrest warrant for
So on the
President
tip of my
Vladimir
tongue,
Putin,
what was
stating that
Jeremy
the ICC
Corbyn a member
has
of?
the right to condemn Putin for the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Group.
All right, let's cross the line now to the official spokesperson for the Association of NATO and War Victims in Libya, Dr. Mustafa Al-Faturi. Dr. Al-Faturi, good to have you on
like
with
a
us.
socialist
What
think
specific legal
tank.
arguments does the U.S. put forth to justify its opposition to the ICC probe?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, actually, firstly, if you look at seriously at the statements concerning the jurisdiction of the ICC coming from the United States State Department or the White House or any other official, there is no valid argument, if you like. There
Names
is
escape me right now.
verifiable, understandable, evidence-supported argument. Simply just because in this case, it's about
This guy's not just a lawyer; he's an international lawyer. So I think that's better than just a lawyer.
The National Museum of Yemen, located in the capital Sana'a, was established in the 1970s to showcase Yemen's rich cultural heritage. It houses items dating back to prehistoric times, as well as artifacts from ancient civilizations such as the Sabaeans, Himyarites, and Islamic periods. Unfortunately, due to
It's no get Tony Robinson in it, I'm not interested. The International Criminal Court probe against Israel as it fears arrest warrants. See, when things get ramped up to this level and you see the current world order, how it operates, and what things like the United Nations Security Council and stuff are stopping countries doing unilaterally, just like America going on their own, Britain going on their own, France going on their own, and it doesn't kind of stop them, because look at Iraq and all that, just look at all the shitholes that they've been behind, but they've not been behind for Syria, Ukraine, the Wesley Clark fucking list, basically, man. Mustafa. See, if you were called Mustafa, you would definitely have that moustache, wouldn't you? It's bad. Well, at least that is the about 6 words endlessly about.
2024. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn more.
Engagement back, hugely symbolic, bearing in mind the experience that he's gone through over
disputed South China Sea.
One Chinese Coast Guard
Hospital, and a suspect is in custody after an attack by a man wielding a sword in East London. Our correspondent witnesses a confrontation between Chinese and Filipino Coast Guard ships in the disputed South China Sea.
That's like squishy, it's like water fights when you're younger, man. It's just a different scale.
There are, in fact, so many Chinese ships in this area.
What the fuck was that dude doing on that vessel?
An Iranian teenager who vanished after anti-government protests was sexually assaulted and killed.
Leaked by who and verified by whom? I think that's the right way you're meant to say it. Otherwise, this could just be like absolute bullshit from start to finish. Easy peasy.
Security forces. And King Charles returns to public engagements today with a visit to a cancer treatment centre. Hello, I'm Asli Mashir. Welcome to the programme. 5 people are in hospital after public and 2 with this incident. It's not clear.
Oh, he's got his doing a shit face. I'm serious.
Running towards
taken to hospital for their injury. Seen lot of activity, and then they
several people stabbed. How do you stab somebody with a katana?
In Hainault. Mark, what's the latest?
People's houses are being driven
now, but surely
just to the
BBC ambulance chasers, BBC ambulance chasers. I mean, like, seriously, what does that add other than standing next to something that's just happened?
What is the police officer? A serious incident like this?
They've had those calls in as well as medical injury. Want to try
to what's gone on.
Can't think of it, and they do.
What do you need experts for? Well, here we go.
He understands.
Old sausage fingers.
We will come back to that story. Thank you, Dal. But we need to move now to
we get it.
The King, because there is an arrival there. This is, of course, his first public engagement since his cancer diagnosis. It's a big moment for the royal family, and I believe we can see him arriving now. Let's take a moment. There he is. Now, we don't know more about what this means for future arrangements, for future royal engagements.
Breaking news, breaking news. A man gets out a car. Let's go there live. What's happening? Well, there's a man who's getting out a fucking car. And then many waves, you can see he's got big sausage fingers.
Now, there is Queen Camilla accompanying him, who has been taking on some of these duties while he's
Queen.
under care and under treatment.
Queen. Couldn't fucking lace the Queen's fucking nighty.
With his first public engagement since that cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, turn around, sausage king, sausage fingers.
Moment as they visit that cancer treatment centre and sends a big message to the public, and one that is comforting surely to many people.
What's the message that it's sending? I had cancer, so I'm going to a cancer clinic. What fucking message is that sending? What drivel is this? Yes, I'm sure lots of older citizens out there will be so much happier about their fucking cancer now that old sausage fingers has fucking walked into a building. Yes, yes, yes. Exactly. You know, everybody, all the cancer patients around the world will just feel so much better by seeing a rich, privileged sausage finger fuck walk into a building. Let's get on with the royal worship.
Watching the royals today as King Charles returns to
I stay in Glasgow.
Now, Queen Camilla has been taking on additional responsibilities, as has Prince William. Of course, there was the news of the Princess of Wales's own diagnosis and treatment. And now we can see that King Charles is there to contribute once again. The head of the royal family, they're returning again, visiting a cancer treatment centre. A symbolic moment there for the...
Symbolic about what? Fuck me. Talk about fucking polishing a fucking turd. Yes, look how great the fucking king is as he walked into a fucking building. Ooh, let's get our pots and pans out and clap for the king. Fuck me, man. I'm pretty sure that's the cancer clinic he went to. Royal worship.
For a long time now. We did work a little bit.
Man walks into building, and then he can't keep you away for the fear of the sword attack. So just a few more sword attack kings there. So you've got sausage fingers and sword attack and sausage fingers. Oh, breaking!
A 20-year-old man has been killed following what they called a terrorist attack near Hainault.
And the news was getting a bit boring there, man. I could get another wee fucking death and over.
Injuries. Again, that's breaking news from Jerusalem. Medics there say that a 20-year-old man has been killed following a terrorist attack, in their words, near Herod's Gate in the Old City. One person is in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Of course, this is all happening as the war in Gaza continues.
As the 20-year-old deeds, the guy that blew himself up. Was it a bomb? Was it a blown Allah Akbar not bar? Now back to a man with a sword. That's not got the gravitas that it used to have. We've all seen Game of Thrones now. So, wee bit of sword, and then, a big bit of sword, and then sausage fingers. Who gives a fuck about pupils getting...
After a messy divorce and a political exit, Humza Yousaf announced his resignation as Scotland's First Minister. He quit after the breakdown of the SNP's coalition with the Scottish Greens. John Swinney and Kate Forbes have emerged as favourites to take over the top job. Lorna Gordon reports.
Politically, there was nowhere left for Humza Yousaf to go. His leadership fatally wounded not by his party or by the voters, but by himself. And so, this admission that his time as First Minister had come to an end.
I am not willing to trade my values and principles or do deals with whomever simply for retaining power. Therefore, after spending the weekend reflecting on what is best for my party, for the government and for the country I lead, I've concluded that repairing our relationship...
Oh, let's not forget, it's not that we've got rid of him, by the way. I think he just said that he'll be in the back benches. He'll still be an MP for, I think it's Glasgow. That's where he's face, I'd imagine.
I'm giving very careful consideration.
Lex Luthor, I want Lex Luthor. It's the only one I know.
Somewhat overwhelmed by
or at least half remember a wee bit about.
Scottish National Party leader. Kate Forbes narrowly lost out to Humza Yousaf in the contest which saw him become leader. She is said to be considering another bid.
It just hasn't gone well. And when things go badly, It's time for a change, and the time for Kate has now come.
There are some who now argue that this political implosion could be an opportunity for Scotland's party of government for over 15 years to get back on the front foot.
SNP dictatorship.
It has the potential to bounce back. You know, this could turn the fortunes of the SNP if and only if they can come together really quickly, put an end to the bickering and the sniping that's taken place for the last 12 months.
It's almost as if the BBC want you fixated on that fucking sword attack. Fixated! Like somebody died in fucking Israel. Fuck it. The sword attack in the city of London.
Who could ask for a better country to lead than Scotland?
Hamza Yousaf's successor will face significant challenges.
Check the wee hipster guy out with the tash. It's redonkulous looking, man. They're blonde on top, black down the bottom, and then I've got a porn tash.
Well, let's bring you those pictures again of King Charles coming back for his first...
No, let's not.
Two names emerging. It's by no means certain or a...
It develops. Now let's return to one of our other top stories, and that's of course the Scottish National...
There's another world out there away for your sword attack.
Right now, Lorna was at Holyrood where she outlined the significant decisions the SNP now faces in the days ahead.
They will be thinking about whether they want a coronation or a contest, whether they want continuity or change, whether any potential candidate is good, not just on the messaging, but also on the delivery, which is one area where perhaps Hamza Yousaf fell down in his time as First Minister. There are two names emerging. It's by no means certain that they'll throw their hat into the ring, but two people who are looking as if they may potentially be likely candidates. One of them is Kate Forbes. She is someone who is seen as a change candidate.
You mentioned about the...
she has a lot of dynamism.
Oh, her there with the big forehead.
But on the downside, some people say that she is socially conservative. Others, however, point to that and say that she is honest and straightforward. A second candidate whose name is being mooted is John Swinney. He is often described as a safe pair of hands. He has many years' experience in SNP cabinets and SNP governments, and many of the senior figures in the party are this morning coming out in support of him.
What comes next is dealing with the biggest challenges in our society back home in Scotland, and what we need is someone with a...
He's the SNP guy. I thought he would be in.
John is obviously vastly experienced.
He's got a wee bit of something about him when he does his questions at PMQs and whatnot.
Scottish government, and I've got no doubt that under his leadership, our party would be in a better place.
But in the meantime, of course, whoever does take over will face some pretty significant challenges. The SNP, usually a united church under the cause of independence, is pretty divided on some very significant issues. How to take forward that cause, economic policy, social policy, such as gender issues. There may well be a vote in the Parliament likely tomorrow on whether the party might face a vote of no confidence in the government. I don't think it's likely to pass, but that's been brought by Scottish Labour, and actually they would like to see an election here in Scotland as well.
These people cannot now give us chaotic functional government. I think they are now very similar to the UK Conservatives.
How many politicians sound like they've been full of the gear the night
cover
before?
up for its failures
Can
and trying to manage
through
the
the
chaos
nose
and division that it has
gear?
internally. I think the SNP is in the same place. I don't think they can give us functional government, but also it is not for them to stitch up and decide who leads the country. It's for the people of Scotland to decide.
Well, the 28-day countdown for the Parliament to choose a new First Minister has not yet been triggered. But if there were to be a contest, we are looking at a pretty interesting few weeks ahead.
That was Lorna Gordon, and there is more on our BBC News website and app, including a live page with developments in that SNP race. Well, let's bring you those pictures again of King Charles arriving at the Cancer Treatment Centre. That's his first official public engagement since February, since his cancer diagnosis. So a big moment for the royal family and a hugely symbolic moment. Please.
And also the Amber Colours that process is going to continue. We're also pulling in more of an easterly wind through the week, so that means our top temperatures up. So tomorrow through the day, the cloudy parts of the coastline.
News app.
Watch on BBC.
A 0.5% increase year on year. At the same time, though, the fourth quarter GDP figure was revised.
Stuff. More royal worship. Rich man comes out a car. Can't even open the door his fucking self. But he came out the car.
Videos verified by Sky News also show a man with a knife outside houses on nearby Liang Close.
What is
with
this?
Recent footage showing bloodstains
Who can see
on
that?
the road. In the police cordon, we've seen a black van in the centre of your image there. Damage to the front right-hand side of the vehicle. You can also see the rear doors open. We know that police were initially called to reports of a vehicle being driven into a house.
Ooh.
Well, these pictures now on social media, on the right-hand side of your screen, just beneath the satellite dish, you'll see a man in a yellow hoodie carrying what looks to be a knife. It's been described by the Metropolitan...
Right, but where's fucking Crocodile fucking Dundee? That ain't a knife. This is a knife. Who fucking calls that a knife? I'm going to wait until they throw in zombie into it. It's a fucking katana, quite clearly. And I'm no expert in fucking swords, fuck's sake.
Police as a sword. You can see it in the right hand there, crouching
Oh,
down
they've at least blurred out his face. The BBC didn't do that.
Well, let me just bring you a little bit of eyewitness reporting. We'll just bring Rachel in a second. But Rachel, we're...
This isn't an eyewitness. This is a woman that's went after the fact and stood on the street and may have spoke to somebody who might have seen something.
Hearing from eyewitnesses on the live page on the Sky News blog saying that people report
on the internet, eyewitnesses on the internet must be real.
that the officers tasered this individual and that people appeared to be fighting off the suspect.
Absolutely. I think it's very clear that what happened at just before 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock, apologies, this morning was a major operation. And actually many of the people who we've spoken to and heard from have said the first that they realised anything was going on was that they heard a huge amount of shouting in the Thurlow Gardens or around Hainault station areas, which is just around 100 metres or so down the road from where I am here. Of course, I'm on the outside of the police cordon. Many people describing hearing huge amount of shouts and shrieks, but describing that as almost the police saying things like get down on the ground or drop a weapon. That was the sort of thing they described hearing, and that's almost the moment many people realised that a serious incident was going on here this morning. We know that officers saying they got called out with other emergency services, huge number of ambulance crews as well, to the Hainault area in East London. Just before 7 o'clock this morning, they said it was to reports of a vehicle being driven into a house in the Thurlow Gardens area. They said there were reports of people having been stabbed.
I'm going to assume that was the black
almost
van.
Immediately on social media, and since speaking to witnesses here as well, we've heard people describing a man in the area carrying what was described by some as a sword or a machete, certainly a terrifyingly large knife, which would have been treated very, very seriously by officers.
Why?
Would have been seen with absolute
There's no
terror
conspiracy
and
then.
panic by
It's just
local
annoying
people.
me why people,
Police saying there
the
were reports
press
at the time
are saying
that somebody
knife.
had been stabbed, telling us that they then understand a suspect went on to stab other individuals, with 2 officers also having been injured. And we know that the ambulance service treated 5 people on the scene before taking those 5 individuals to hospital, and we still haven't had an update yet, really crucially, on those individuals' condition. That is a crucial thing that we are awaiting for right now. For the police, of course, as I've mentioned already, that moment of panic, that live operation very much now over, and now it becomes about containing the situation and understanding minute by minute, second by second, what happened during that incident, the moments leading up to it and the moments after. We have such a large cordon here today, huge swathes of people can't
New
get to their
information.
homes right now, speak to witnesses.
is describing the incident. There's some reporting here. A witness who was asked not to be named said, "I heard the words, he's got a massive knife, he's got a massive sword." He disappeared down an alley.
That's what she said.
The police went into the alley. Seemed to be a sort of standoff. I heard a huge commotion, then a scream. I think I heard sobbing sounds and a woman scream. I heard a voice. She's been stabbed in the face. We need assistance, you know, calling for medical backup. That's eyewitness reporting. Obviously, on here on Sky News, can't verify all of those details.
You don't stab somebody with that kind of sword.
Rachel,
you chop people up. I don't
truly
know, that's just
traumatic and very effective incident that took place.
Absolutely. And they witnessed this word, this scream up in the incident. Their conditions, eyewitness, and we've serious injuries, and we've seen those images of a knife as well, which may well have been used in these attacks. 2 police officers also hurt as well, and we are just awaiting that crucial information from the Metropolitan Police, who right now are trying to contain and understand this as a crime scene. But of course, in a hospital nearby, doctors and nurses are battling, of course, to support those 5 individuals. We don't
Look
know
at the BBC having that constantly stuck there.
Locally, this is a really traumatising moment. And we know,
scandalous, man.
Close to 7 o'clock in the morning, that's when this happened. At Thurlow Gardens, a road that
I mean, I know this is quite a cool story and all that, but you only need to go and film fucking Gaza for 2 seconds, or Ukraine for 2 seconds before you get the violence level goes up.
Children to nursery, youngsters heading to school with their families. All of those people would have been potentially caught up in this, where they're actually being...
So, nothing happened. Nobody get caught up in it, as we know. But potentially, this could have been... Oh my God, let's speculate endlessly about how bad this might have been, could have been, would have been. There's children that stay in this street. I've seen a wee old lady staying in that one. Oh, the terror.
Attacked, being hurt, or whether just witnessing it, and it's hard to overstate, I think, the trauma that something like that could lead to when you're just in your what people have been described as a very safe, normal residential area.
Rachel Venables
Where all
joining
the
us live
successful
in
drug
East
dealers will
London.
stay then.
Thank you so much. Breaking news just to bring you now here on Sky News. We're hearing that there will be a Met Police statement at midday today. That's a Met Police statement at midday today. Hearing that for the first time here on Sky News. I want to bring in now Graham Wetton, police commentator, who joins us live and has done so through the course of the morning. Graham, it strikes me that these incidents in the opening moments very frenetic. There's a shortage of details. There's a shortage of information. The public, the police, the media, all scrabbling to try and find out and understand what's going on. Now that 4.5 hours or so have passed, let's just take a moment to kind of summarise and analyse what we've seen this morning.
Yeah, the initial calls came in about 6:54. Now, just in respect to the policing, they change at about 7 a.m, as in the night turn, the night duty will go off at 7 and the early turn take over. Now, within policing, because it's a 24/7 service, that there clearly is some sort of crossover. So you still need units to deal with calls, but you then need units to come on at 7 to go out and answer those calls. Now, at 6:54, you don't actually know what you're driving to. You get different pieces of information as you're on way. The control centre update you as you're travelling to the location. We've got an additional call saying whatever. So you don't often realise, or you don't know for certain what you're about to walk into. You know there's a serious incident. The number of calls coming in are almost like advising you, informing you that clearly this is maybe more serious than was first initially thought, but you still go straight to the scene. You go to the scene, you deal with whatever's in front of you.
If Sky News brought fucking some cunt on to explain how cops respond to incidents, well, you see, what would have happened? They would have got in their car, they would have got as much information from people who were phoning from where the incident was, and they would have went there. Fuck, I don't know.
Insecure, out on the street with the sword.
I find all news right now really, really dumbed down. For RTs, fish, for press TV stuff. Do you know whose stuff's actually a wee bit better, but it's got too many dead Palestinians for me? Al Jazeera. You know, they're a wee bit different. A wee bit way, a wee bit woe. Getting kicked out of Israel. Gives them kudos points. Search for wanted suspects turns deadly for 4 officers. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah, so the question is right now, is the
Trump
shelter in
hush
place
money
open?
trial
Is the
resumes.
area okay to go back to normal duties? Yes, we're going to be at the residence
Did he just say do they?
several hours, but as far as the lockdowns and closure of roads and all of that, we have opened that back up. The house has been secured, our officers have been cleared, and now comes the tedious task of ensuring that we collect the evidence and process the scene. Yes.
I consume little to no American media anymore. I say that as I'm fucking watching some Fox stream that I found, right? But I can't entertain it, it's all pish. But I did, on occasion, I touched base with this podcast called The No Agenda Show, and they were talking about the fucking shit that's going on in the American press about the Trump trial and stuff. And I'm trying to think, this was like a legit TV show. It was like CNN, ABC or some Fox or some shit like that, and he had somebody on talking about Donald Trump farting in the fucking in the courtroom, and the guy's sitting there going, I'm not trying to be funny here, but he stinks, everybody can smell him, he stinks. And I'm like, fuck me, no wonder I cannot consume American fucking media. That is the level that it's got to. Especially the run up to the election.
Years, I can't remember.
It's the levels of RT and Press TV, the fucking shameless partisan messaging that they put out in America. At least the BBC kind of still pretend to be somewhat of a news organisation. It's not hard to see their editorial slant. But they still, on the surface, had to hide it a wee bit more than your average RT or whatnot. Today, America was in the international court. They farted. Being RT. I remember when RT first came out, man, and you had, I don't know if it's still about, but you had RT. Oh, great. Well, I won't be watching that. Just be reporting dead bodies from a war zone to demonise one side or the other.
They lost trust in the
Stabbing in the
capabilities
dark.
of their occupation force.
But I don't know if you can remember, like 10, 15 years ago when RT and RT America, you could get them everywhere, the boob tubes in your council TV here in the UK. And they used to have this show, and I never watched it because it was so laughable and pathetic even back then, when Abby Martin was bouncing about and everybody was getting their panties in a bunch about fracking. Where did you hear about fracking? At RT? Think about it. Think about it. Anyway, they had this show where they had these two wee guys and they would rap the news to you. So dumbed down bullshit, man. Obviously aimed for the internet Alex Jones generation, you know, and it worked very successfully. People still to this day might watch RT and think that that's real news. Anyway, let's have a look at the
2018. The city of Ichnya, Chernigov region.
На военном складе под Черниговом прогремел взрыв. Данных о жертвах пока нет. Инцидент произошел недалеко от города Ичня.
Well, we've got our own files to worry about. Stabbing succumbs to injuries sustained after being shot by Israeli occupation forces. That must be the terror attack in Israel, I am assuming. So let's see if the person behind Al-Quds stabbing, Al-Quds rings a bell. I think that could be, succumbs to injuries sustained after being shot. Aye, where did you get your injury? I was shot. That's how I came to it. Anywho, what are they talking about? How do I unmute it?
Iran's culture and heritage. He's been involved in countless revamps of decor objects.
Oh, it tells you how great Iran is. Ain't that sweet? ABC News, that's the American Broadcasting Corporation, innit? Latest news and headlines. It's all absolute drivel. I don't think I've ever actually... I must have obviously fucking came across it in some capacity, but I've never consciously... Or they're selling... It's the fucking... What's it called? The television channels again? I can't even remember. American courtroom stuff.
Neglected their son, ignored his cries for help, and then bought him a gun.
The first parents in America to be charged in a school shooting.
That is mental chicken oriental, man. They've used the event, they've used the Deep State Illuminati, but a tragic event of a school shooting has been used to set the precedent where you can charge parents for their kids' crimes. Mental. I don't know all the details about it because American gun crime doesn't really interest me that much. My days at Alex Jones telling me what's interesting and not are over. Anyway, Ukraine Prosecutor General says Russian army fired a missile with cluster warhead at Odessa.
Forces and they killed civilians too.
Cluster bombs are technically banned under international law.
It's bombarding the city of Kharkiv, and it has been for some time. It's also using its aerial dominance at the moment to attack Ukrainian energy plants. It's ramped up attacks on Ukrainian railway in this window before a promised military aid package of $61 billion, especially from the United States, is due to
just
arrive
under
and help to
100 billion
shore up
from
Ukrainian defences. Russia's
is that all the
also
packaging for Taiwan, Ukraine, and Israel?
The head of the Ukrainian armed forces said that it's been attacking at several different points and having success. Ukrainian forces have had to retreat, the Ukrainian head of the armed forces said on Sunday, from 3 different villages on the eastern front. So at the moment, this is Russia having several gains in this war.
Thank you for the update, John Holman, live there in Kyiv.
What about the stabbing in fucking London?
This news hour. Here's Gemma.
Thank you, Folly. The defending NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets, are through to the second round of the playoffs, and they've done so at the expense of LeBron James and the LA Lakers. Denver taking game.
That'll be copyrighted up the fucking shithole. But my God, man, what a strange place America is. They've got a basketball team, I think that was, that are called the Nuggets. That's an insult up here, man. You fucking nugget. Oh, brilliant. New packaging regulations, food allergies, yeah, I'd like for a peanut.
The amount of data there, you have to really work hard to wade through it. And if you're busy and you're just trying to get to that correct information, it's hugely confusing. And that's what we found is 70% of people that we surveyed are really scared about what they're buying when they're out and about, as opposed to the certainty of when they've made it at home.
It can be really...
That was just the Alex Jones fans.
Examples of unclear packaging where the information might be there, but it's across a seam, it's under a sort of fold of a pack. So my son is really allergic to milk and egg, and he was at a birthday party about 1.5 years ago, and the mum had bought a cupcake especially for him without milk and egg, or so she thought. And she was just about to give it to him, and I just turned up at that point and I just did a double check of it. And I realised right tucked under the plastic packaging of the cupcake holder, it said...
Well, That's definitely changed my day. Every day's a school day. Taking stand against Israel amid war.
Of gross violations of human rights. All of these were incidents much before October 7th, and none took place in Gaza.
By law, the U.S. is required to withhold assistance from any foreign military facing these types of accusations unless they address the issues. But there's no indication any aid will be put on hold.
It does not have bearing on the broader security relationship that we may have with a country, especially a country like Israel, in which we have a long-standing security relationship.
Especially
a country as Secretary Antony Blinken is in Saudi Arabia discussing a potential ceasefire in Gaza with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
We the students have the power!
The longer the war goes on, the more it becomes an issue for President Biden's re-election efforts. Pro-Palestine protesters are blasting the president for his continued support of Israel, and the White House is starting to take a stand against some of the protest rhetoric on college campuses.
While Americans have the right
Scary
to
space
peacefully
again.
protest, that's something that we believe here in this administration. He stands squarely,
Really
against
want
any
zigga.
rhetoric, violent rhetoric.
Secretary Blinken says he's hopeful Hamas and Israel will agree to a ceasefire soon and the release of more hostages on both sides.
But it's a limited ceasefire in certain areas, isn't it? It's all
Rebecca,
for
thank you
quote
so
no
much
knickers
for that
again.
update, giving
No
you
substance.
another live look out in Rafah as that humanitarian crisis continues at this hour.
Yes.
Right now, transitioning to give you a live look.
What a world in which we stay. You can watch people starve to death live. Fucking amazing, man. Getting it is fucking not 1984, 2024, the sequel. Music. Commercial break. Oh. Football. Oh man, I think there might be some Champions League on tonight. I'm thinking. King Charles visits somewhere.
The University College Hospital.
Freedom of the press in the UK, man, is fucking brilliant in it. Sword attack. Fucking royal worship. And if ITN done live shit, that's all it would be as well. But ITN do Channel 5. What am I looking for here? Which around this time will be kind of current affairs shows and shit, and no
about
doubt
the way they look. You know, it just caused antagonism.
I worked for a company that had a hot totty list. I just can't see it. Channel 5 doesn't broadcast. Look, they're actually showing you what they're giving you audio of people taking pictures. You can't hear fuck all. King Charles named as patron of Cancer Research UK. Well, every silver lining sausage fingers, eh? Every silver lining. My God. What is that? Look. Freedom! Are the BBC even at least talking over it? Yes, here's a man standing. Yes, there's a king standing, don't you know?
What does this mean for the future?
It means his legs are working, don't you know? He's fucking standing up on his own.
His wife, Queen Camilla, will be making these public engagements again, where the public can see him re-engage
grab his sausage fingers.
or is it still on advice, on medical advice?
It's absolutely on medical advice.
Look.
I mean, you can
can actually hear the Sky News guy.
The second, and obviously in
the
recent
background
months,
there.
been very public and open with his own health care.
My God, what a man. I told people he had cancer. He got treated for it and hopefully it's away. What a fucking hero. Oh man, that is so funny. Right. Here are, where the fuck is this?
The official exchange rate, that's about 14, 15
Zimbabwe's new
US
currency
dollars.
backed by
Zimbabweans are
gold.
used to this currency changes. It's nothing new. There's no excitement in the air, but people have been waiting, some of them for hours, outside their banks, hoping to get their hands on the new currency, and some of them hope this will help stabilize the economy.
From what I can see, and from what I have been told by the people in the bank, I am confident this will help our economy in Zimbabwe.
Economists say for the new currency to work, people have to have confidence in it. Zimbabwe has a multi-currency system, which means you can buy goods here using foreign currencies, anything from the South African rand to the US dollars. And some economists say the government has to force people to use the new local money, to use the ZIG notes, for example, paying taxes or duty at the border. But there are some things Zimbabweans can't buy using the ZIG notes. For example, petrol and diesel. That is still sold in
Name
US
of the
dollars.
ZIG notes or something? What did they say there?
The ZIG notes, you have to go to the bank or the black markets to change the money into US dollars. Then you can buy fuel. So that complication is still there. And people of course are waiting to see.
I fear for
how
my
this new
channel,
currency
if I
will fare
fucking
out.
make the jokes
Is
I
it
would
going
like
be
to
hit
make
by
about
inflation? And is it really
Zimbabwe's
going to
currency being
stabilize
called
Zimbabwe's
Zignogs.
economy? Harun Mutasa, Al Jazeera. Harare.
Sounds like.
And that wraps up this news hour on Al Jazeera, but do stay with us. Plenty more world news coming up, including the latest developments in Israel's war on Gaza with my colleague Mariam Namazi. Thank you for watching.
The demand for low-price clothing is accelerating at high speed.
It's absolutely crazy. By 2030, the industry will expand by an additional 60%.
Al Jazeera takes a detailed look at disposable fashion.
We cannot lose 1 hour. We are calculating hours and minutes, not days.
Exposing the hidden human and environmental costs.
See, so that music and shit, like stupid wee excerpts like that. It doesn't affect your channel, it's just copyright strike and they put adverts on it and shit. Right, that's the top of the hour. Oh no! Press conference at 12 bells, wasn't it? Who was having a press conference that? Fucking Polish guy? About the stabbings. Anybody get any money on any new news coming out rather than the shit that we've been regurgitating constantly for about 2 hours now? This should be interesting.
Hello, you're watching Sky News Today with me, Jane Secker. It's 12 o'clock. These are the headlines. Breaking news. A critical incident is declared in Hainault in East London after several people were stabbed near a tube station. Police say a man carrying a sword has been arrested. The ambulance services confirmed it has taken 5 people to hospital. The area is under lockdown, but police say the incident is not thought to be terror-related.
Not thought? Who fucking thought that in the first place?
A little later this hour, we'll bring you that live. Also today.
Sir, how are you feeling? Lovely
lovely to see you back. It's wonderful to see you back. Enjoy your visit. The King makes his first major
Sausage
public
fingers.
engagement since his cancer diagnosis. Accompanied by the Queen, the monarch has met with members of the public and medical staff at a cancer treatment centre after being named the new patron of Cancer Research UK.
Keep those fingers in your hands in your pocket, man.
Hello, good afternoon. We start with breaking news. A man armed with a sword has been arrested after members of the public and police
This
officers
is breaking,
were
been getting
attacked in East
regurgitated for
London.
hours
5
now,
people
which
have
is
been
like
taken
10
to
days in the
hospital.
24-hour
These
news
are the
cycle.
latest pictures shared on social media. They show a man in a yellow hoodie carrying what looks to be a sword. We've also seen a black van with damage to the front right-hand side and its back doors open.
Does
Police
that
were
look like-
initially called to reports of a vehicle being driven into a house. Well, officers
Did
say
they go
were
team-handed
called
or
shortly
something?
before 7 a.m. to reports of people being stabbed and a vehicle being driven into a house in the Thurlow Gardens area near Hainault tube station. Videos verified by Sky News also show a man with a knife outside houses on nearby Lane Close, with footage there showing bloodstains on the road. Well, our correspondent Rachel Venables is at the scene for us. Rachel, we were expecting a police press conference in the short next few minutes. What are they saying down there on the scene?
Well, we've been given very little information, in fact,
It's
from the
relentless, isn't it?
Metropolitan Police, from the officers who are guarding what is currently a very large crime scene. I'm actually around 100 metres or so down the road from Hainault
Sounds like a
Station.
gang fight,
and this
doesn't
is where we're expecting an update from
Sounds
Commander
like a gang
Stuart
fight.
Bell, who leads policing in the local area.
Somebody went
That
team-handed
press
and
statement was
bounced
due
out
to
the
be
back
at
of a
around
van.
12 o'clock, so
Who knows?
on the dot of midday. We've just been
Remember,
told it
this
might be
isn't
delayed
news.
by a few minutes, possibly as
What
much
I
as
say
half an
isn't
hour. And of
news.
course, that indicates, I
Blindly
think,
speculation
how
by a stupid
fast-paced
cunt on
and
the internet.
moving this situation is. We're only a few hours out now from that incredible, terrifying moment just before 7
you
o'clock
later,
this
damned.
morning, when police were called out to the Thurlow Gardens area, very near to Hainault tube station, to reports that a man had driven a vehicle, or that a vehicle certainly had been driven into a house there. And then that a man had begun stabbing individuals. And we know there were reports of a number of people being stabbed. 2 officers also have been injured in this. A total of 5 people were treated on the scene by the London Ambulance Service and then taken to hospital. And really crucially, several hours on, we have not yet had an update as to their condition, the severity of their injuries. But of course, we've seen those pictures. They flooded social media so quickly. Local groups, Snapchat and the like, people sharing in their neighbourhood communities, as it were, pictures of a man dressed in a yellow hoodie carrying a viciously long-looking knife, described by some as a sword, others as a machete. We know
It's
that
just
police
titillation,
are
isn't
not
it? It's
treating this
really,
as a
really titillation.
terror-related incident. They have arrested
I understand
a 36-year-old
reporting.
man.
There's been an incident in London. People within London have been advised X, Y, and Z. But endlessly rolling all these sexy camera shots. Look at the car smashed in. Look at the guy with a big sword and stuff. Like, it's no longer news. It's fucking what you... entertaining. It's entertainment. Titillation. Wow, look at the guy with the sword. And this will be what everybody's talking about today. I mean, included. Obviously, I'm doing it right now, but I'm just saying, like, there's other shit going on in the world. Members of the public. Are they saying it was a random attack? Driving your car into somebody's house and having a sword on you? Doesn't sound like a random attack to me, but time will tell. Aye, the helicopter shots and the fucking that timed it 15 seconds. That clip is with the guy with the sword. They just rerun it. What's the purpose of her being there? She is the like canvassing the area looking for information. She's reading from all the known information that's out there on the news
Wrong
articles.
was that they saw the police swarming the area. They heard the shouting
Right,
in the
there's the
aftermath of that.
press
But of course, a really
conference.
critical incident here as then officers and ambulance service, possibly members of the public as well, in those immediate moments after the incident, trying to
I'm no
save
anti-royalist
people,
or
trying
anything,
to
by the way. I
administer
just don't
first
give a
aid,
flying
as
fuck.
the police now
And I think
turn
it's
to the
kind of
investigative
funny and
process.
sad
And as I
they
say, we
worship
await that update from them, which will be the first
media
major update
in this
since they
country, and
confirmed this
American
incident
media as
just
well.
before,
don't
that
they?
had happened at just before 7 o'clock this morning.
And Rachel, from the footage that we have, we are able to see this van that looks like it's been in a pretty significant collision. We know that the police were initially called to reports of a vehicle in collision with a house. Do we have any idea which property that house that van may have crashed into? How far away, perhaps, it is?
I've got a not so funny story about a katana. Back in the day, there was this. He was a menace to Scumbernauld, right? He was a walking riot, right? Anyway, so he was a fucking fighter and a fucking pain in the arse. And the long and the short of it, something happened and him and his mate went and got tooled up and went down to a boozer to square go these cunts. And he took one of these katanas off a wall. I don't know if it was his house or his mate's. And he went down with a katana. And he's went like and pulled the katana out. The blade has came away for the fucking handle and went like and his mate's eyeball, killing him. Don't you just love it? Don't you just love it? You know, I wonder if that's...
dotted along the road. You've seen dozens we have of police officers in varying ranks walking through the area, some plain-clothed, many of them in uniform, police cars as well, and that blue and white tape crisscrossing the road here, blocking off people from getting home as they try to contain the situation, and really as they try to answer those key questions. What developed? We know that the reports began with a vehicle crashing into a house, and that then there were reports of individuals being stabbed. But how did that change as the morning
I shouldn't
went on?
fucking laugh, man. Honestly, I shouldn't laugh. But
Okay, Rachel
Frankie Learmonth, I'm pretty sure his name's going to be in here
when
anyway.
That press conference is imminent. Thank you very much for now for bringing us all of that. Let's just bring you the other bit of breaking news that we've had in the last half an hour. The King has returned to public for the first time since his cancer diagnosis, and we have footage of him.
Was that long ago? It's on like an old website. Samurai Yob killed his pal by accident.
Named today as the new patron
2005. Teenager killed his pal during a bang flight when the blades slew off into the victim's eyes. Mental, man.
There as well. Has of course been receiving treatment
Frankie
for an
Learmonth.
undisclosed form of cancer.
I used to hang about with his wee brother was spot on, man.
At the very end of last Friday.
Lovely wee guy. Frankie was a fucking riot, man. Like, he was the kind of dude you would avoid at the weekends and all that, just for an easy life.
King is making after about 3 months of care as a cancer outpatient. We know that this visit today
there's a way to fucking go, man.
Trying to raise awareness
go down fucking team-handed with your pal and
highlighting some of that innovative research, which is
Samurai Sword, the katana.
Cancer Research UK, which is taking place at that hospital. Let's bring in our correspondent Rhiannon Mills as we look at these images. She's outside at University College Hospital in central London. And Rhiannon, you managed to shout a few questions to the King as he arrived. What did you mean
fucking hell, man. I fucking went and fucking...
Yeah, I took the chance and just shouted a couple of gentle remarks and comments at the King as he arrived, saying...
8 inches, man.
How you doing? It's good to have you back. And yeah, I think he appreciates... There's a huge number of cameras here and realises...
Fuck's sake. Can we get this press conference, please? Who's this wee dear?
With those details to our viewers. But from what we know, as a former colonel in the IDF, are you satisfied with these terms?
Money on her accent.
Terms themselves. My question is about Hamas, the terror organization.
American.
And I say that because I don't believe Hamas. So when you put terms into play with the terror organization, that it's not just a question of what they did on October 7th, but what they've done in that sense with the hostages ever since, I don't believe them. And to me, the question is, do the terms cover the fact that Hamas is not somebody believable that I can rely on? How do you still get your citizens back home where they were stolen from on October 7th?
If this deal is agreed to, though, there is a huge amount of international pressure for these military plans for an offensive in Rafah to be called off. If this hostage deal particularly is agreed, do you think that that operation in Rafah should be suspended?
I think it will definitely be postponed, but I also think that Hamas needs to be taken care of. When you talk to Israelis here, it's not just about getting the hostages back, it's also about not allowing that military capability of Hamas to continue to be. And the only place that Hamas still has full military capability, like what they did on October 7th, is under Rafah. It's not in Rafah, it's under Rafah, in that subterranean arena. So I do think it would be postponed. I don't think it would ever be canceled.
So the worry then is that once the ceasefire is over, that Israeli IDF operations will continue. And Hamas is responding at the moment by saying Israel is insisting on two issues. They don't want a complete ceasefire, and they're not talking about the serious withdrawal from Gaza. And I wonder, Murray, how we will ever see an end to this war when we have that kind of rhetoric from both sides, that Israel will never fully, in the near future anyway, withdraw from Gaza, and they're certainly not going to be happy with Hamas staying in control. So how will we see an end ever to this conflict?
I'm not going to be able to define the end to the conflict as you totally understand, but I want to hope that all of us understand that we're not exactly the same as Hamas. And Hamas is a terror organization defined as such by the UK, not just Israel and the United States and the EU. And to put us as being what Hamas says and what Israel says on the same platform, to me, is part of the problem. We're trying to defend ourselves. This is not against the Palestinians, the Gazans, and I'm sure in that sense, the pictures that you're showing now of the destruction in the Gaza Strip, and I'd have you show the pictures of 133 people that should be in their homes, of a year-old baby and an 86-year-old man who were taken from their houses inside the state of Israel on October 7th. This is not an equal aspect, and no, I don't know how yet to resolve the conflict. I need to get the hostages home, and I need to not be constantly under defense from a terror organization.
Mary Eisen, thank you very much for joining us from Tel Aviv, and as I mentioned, we'll be live in Cairo shortly to talk to Amr Moussa. 5 people are in hospital after a multiple stabbing in northeast London. A man armed with a sword has been arrested. Police called just before 7 o'clock UK time this morning when they were told a car had been driven into a house near Hainault underground station. The suspect is believed to have attacked members of the public and 2 police officers. A 36-year-old suspect is now in custody. Police say they don't believe the incident is terror-related. But here is London Mayor Sadiq Khan issuing this statement, saying, "I'm devastated, absolutely devastated by the news from Hainault this morning," and adding the police are not looking for anyone else in connection with this incident. The police officers and emergency services showed the best of our city running towards danger. Let's take you to Mark Labelle, a correspondent who is there in Hainault. What is the latest from police, Mark?
Well, Lucy, we're just about to hear from Stuart Bell, who leads policing from the Met. He leads policing in the local area here, and it's a much anticipated police conference. He's going to be standing right where I am. 2 things that people are really looking forward to finding out about. One is about the suspect. Is there any more about the motive, and also the history of the suspect, the 36-year-old with a sword who was arrested earlier this morning? And second, about those injured. We heard that 5 people were treated at the scene and then taken to hospital, 2 of whom were police officers, at least 5 injured. What is their condition? What is the state of those people? So those are the 2 things we're going to be looking out for, particularly because the residents that I'm speaking to here, Lucy, want answers, because there's a lot of footage now on social media of this man wearing this yellow top with this large knife, or sword as the police are calling it, running around, jumping on roofs, being chased by the police. At one point, eyewitnesses saying he was tasered by police. We've been shown footage here by people who were standing just yards from him as he approached them, filming him on the phone. So there were a lot of people, it appears, that came into contact with this person. This was a terrifying morning, a terrifying few minutes for many, many people this morning as this man ran around and did what he did, allegedly. So we will be hearing more details about that from the police. The residents here would like a bit more clarity, because they're saying that nothing like this has ever happened here before, Lucy. Maybe 2 burglaries in 14 years from one resident. Another mother was walking her kid to school this morning and said the kid was asking, her daughter was asking her what was going on, and others have concluded that knife crime, a problem in London, a problem in the capital, has now come to this area. So that's how residents here are interpreting the events, but they do want clearer answers from the police.
Mark, thank you so much. Mark Lobel there in Hainault. Do stay with us. Coming up, we will be live in Kenya. Devastating floods there, a dam bursting. Over 100 people have been killed. We'll take you there live. Around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News.
Right, where's this fucking... Oh, it's been postponed to 12:30, right. So Donald Trump farts in court, everybody. That's the level of the American press when it comes to the argument. The debate over Trump and the electioneering, let's call it what it is, electioneering in the run-up to the election. I can't imagine
we'll be live in
there's
Kenya.
going to be any
There's been catastrophic
epiphanies
flooding there, but before we take you there, let's just show you these pictures again that we have received from Central London.
Prince fucking Charles.
It's not just the local residents that you're trying to make the area safe for, is it? You know, if you've got other emergency services coming in and the ambulance coming in, for example, you don't want your colleagues in the other emergency services putting themselves at risk.
No, absolutely. Excellent point. We've seen as well, there's a clip that I think you've been showing this morning of an ambulance vehicle that's turned up, and then you see the reversing lights come on because the suspect is still in the area with that sword, with that weapon in his hand. So you have to make sure the area is safe for fire brigade personnel, ambulance staff to come in, because the ambulance personnel want to get in there because they know there's injured persons. So it's essential they get to treat those casualties as soon as they can. But again, the area needs to be safe for them to do so. So they are waiting for the police to deal with the initial threat, the suspect we have seen on the clips being shown this morning, but also some confirmation that is the only threat. You know, that individual is the only one present on scene. Because as I said, those
covering up his face now.
Can be quite confusing. The descriptions
earlier on, the pictures that were on the BBC, his face wasn't covered.
The individual you've got
or blurred
is the
out,
only
sorry.
one there, before you let the other emergency services come onto the scene and start doing their essential work of treating casualties. But
right, let's see if we can get anything else. Israeli media, if no deal is reached, the army will assess plans for Rafah assault in 3 days. Good shit. It's kind of a threat, isn't it? Agree to our terms or we're
how
going to
catastrophic would a ground invasion of Rafah be for the Palestinians?
It would be apocalyptic because we're already beyond catastrophic when it comes to the humanitarian situation.
Oh, this sounds a wee bit more friendly.
And some new questions.
This
morning, autopsy results are raising new questions about the mysterious death of Colorado mother Suzanne Morphew. The autopsy ruling her death a homicide, finding substances consistent with an animal tranquilizer in her bones. Suzanne Morphew went missing on Mother's Day in 2020 while allegedly on a bike ride. Just 7 months ago, authorities found her remains.
Yes, very American-centric. Granted, it is American news, but I need to try and find something international American push news.
State of Palestine, which is on all of the historic Palestine, from the river to the sea. In Palestinian dialect, they were saying from waters to waters, which is from the river to the sea. Actually, they want an independent and one state, which will allow all the Palestinians to return from the diaspora. But they also called on the university itself. They wanted transparency. They wanted disclosure to know where their tuition payments are going exactly.
From the river to the sea, depending on what you listen to, where you hear the talking heads talk. For example, maybe Great Britain News or Talk TV. They classify that saying from the river to the sea Palestine will be free, I think it is, as anti-Semitic. Crazy. Crazy. That's just the tagline, that's what they've been told to constantly repeat. So all these who will sounds a pile of rubbish. Let's see how they make you want to vote for
This
UKIP.
isn't the focus of our London mayor.
London Mayor, boom!
Well, listen, say that he is very, very concerned about knife crime and the need to reduce knife crime in the capital. However, people point to what they see as a contradiction from the London mayor, who appears very often to be willing to jump onto the police at times of controversy over issues like stop and search, which he feels targets certain sectors of the community in London adversely compared to others. And people see an inconsistency there. If you're truly determined to try to reduce knife crime, then perhaps you would be fully supportive.
Who's more likely to be carrying a knife? A City of London dude in a shirt and tie, or somebody that looks like a wee hood rat? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's no rocket science.
In London, and yet, given Mark, the population size of the black community in London.
And yet, Mark, in this incident, a white man, a young white man, was carrying a very unusual weapon, a samurai sword. We know that there's been a vehicle involved in this as well, a car or a van crashing into a house. This
hardly looks like a business dude for the City of London, does he?
Atypical, and I just wonder if any stop and search could have possibly prevented this.
Geezer?
Yeah, well, certainly this was a light-skinned individual. I don't know what his nationality or race is in that sense, but of course, white people, Asian people, black people, they all commit crime. But in terms of the demographics of London, if you look at knife crime across
happy
the hotspots, the
I woke
London
up this
boroughs
morning
where it's most prevalent, then the majority of the offenders, and indeed those who are being offended against, the victims, they tend to be black people. It's a very difficult situation and a topic for people to get into and to talk about, because there are those who are more than willing to jump on them and accuse them of singling out certain communities and effectively being racist. But it is a problem that if you speak to those in law enforcement, they've been dealing with for many years.
Fucking hell, man. Sausage fingers. All these different channels,
right now
and
it's
they're all
relatively
talking about
calm
all
scene
the
here at
same
Columbia
stuff. More or
University. We're
less.
standing outside of Hamilton Hall, or what's now being called Hens.
I'm glad I heard about Zimbabwe's new currency, though.
Been draped. This is
Zignog.
capping off a dramatic scene that happened overnight, perhaps the largest escalation that we've seen in these protests that have spanned over two weeks. Students stormed the building after a pretty tense day yesterday, breaking windows, zip tying the doors, even putting bike locks on the doors, barricading themselves in, and it marked a pretty chaotic night. Now, yesterday, just to give you some context, the University of Columbia came out and said that they wanted an encampment of students who have been occupying the quad at Columbia University. They wanted them out by 2 p.m., but that did not happen yesterday. Students protested through the afternoon and into the evening, and there was no police intervention. It was relatively peaceful here, at least on campus. Other protests across the country, at University of Georgia, all the way to UCLA in California, were not as peaceful. There were several protesters who were arrested. It really just shows what a boiling point we have reached among students and universities across the country. All at the center of it, of course, is the Israeli war in Gaza. Lucy?
Tom, thanks so much for joining us from outside Columbia University in New York. Let's just take you back to central London because it's been a big day when we have been seeing King Charles carrying out his first major public engagement since his cancer diagnosis. He really wants to raise awareness of the importance of early cancer diagnosis when he made that decision to make public his own health issues earlier this year. He said he hoped it would encourage others to seek health checks. That has in fact happened, but he looks quite well. People are saying who are there. He is very engaged with those that are there. A real public show of support for patients who are there, those who are doing research work as well around cancer, and of course the hard-working staff who are there too. So we'll have more on this story coming up here on BBC News. Do stay with us.
Hello again. For many of us today, temperatures are a bit higher than they were yesterday. And as we go through the rest of the week, you can see from the yellows and also the amber colours in the chart that that process is going to continue. We're also pulling in more of an easterly wind through the week. So that means for the North Sea coastline, it will be a little bit cooler in that wind, but we'll also have some low cloud, mist and fog at times. Today it's the west that's seeing the rain, the strongest winds through the Irish Sea and areas adjacent. A lot of dry weather, a lot of sunshine around too. But in the southeast through the day, a new weather front comes in, introducing a bit more cloud in the odd shower. Top temperatures up to 19 degrees, but always feeling cooler in the west under the cloud and the rain. Now, as we head through the evening and overnight, our weather front's still with us, but it continues to weaken. We'll pull in some low cloud, mist and fog along North Sea coastlines. In between there'll be some clear skies, but we're not expecting any issues.
Try to think. Oh. Is that a start?
And police officers, even though they might be armed with a taser, and we believe that a taser was deployed, we don't know if the first officers on scene had tasers. And even with a taser, it's not 100% effective. There are occasions where the barbs misfire, don't connect with clothing properly, a connection's not made, and that stun gun doesn't operate properly. So it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it's far better than having effectively only pepper spray and a baton when you're coming up against someone with a long bladed weapon like a samurai sword.
Yes, this whole incident is a stark reminder of just how dangerous it is to be a police officer, not least when you're unarmed.
Yeah, I mean, the police, of course, come under criticism quite often in the media when there are often these videos, for instance, that circulate around that show an incident, show the arrest of an individual, and you get a 20, 30-second clip of the most violent moment of that arrest when the police are wrestling.
That's what your channel that you're sitting on are doing right now?
Reason with an individual to try to get them to comply before things then often at no fault of the police, head south and turn quite violent. And we know the police for that, and a variety of other issues over recent months and years have been criticised. But we should never forget the job that they do, which is regularly put themselves in the line of fire, into danger, rushing forward when quite rightly you or I, other members of the public, would be rushing in the opposite direction to get out of the way of that danger. It is, what you might say they are paid for, but actually they're not paid to come up against someone carrying a lethal weapon when they don't have that lethal force themselves. They do have backup in the forms of armed response vehicles, but they are not everywhere. We do not have a routinely armed police force in this country, so armed response vehicle patrols could be some minutes off. And in some of the outlying parts of London, like this area in Hainault, they could be 10 or 15 minutes away. We just don't know where the nearest armed response vehicle would be. So it would be other frontline officers who carry taser who would be asked to push forward and try to deal with an individual with a deadly weapon, clearly intent on causing as much harm as possible.
Mark, it does look like there has been some movement there where the press conference is due to start. So I'm just keeping half an eye on that. But while we wait, because it does look like some microphones are being moved, some individuals were walking towards the camera, I believe we might be due to start any moment now. But Mark, this significant moment, the first official moment really that the police will have to in person set out what precisely has happened.
Yes, and feel free to just shout and tell me to shut up as soon as you see him. But yes, a big part of what Stuart Bell, the Chief Superintendent, will be doing is reassurance to, quite understandably, very worried members of the public in that area. So that
correspondent Rachel Venables is at the scene. Rachel, a pretty terrifying thing for local people to have woken up to. What have they been saying this morning?
Well, there's a real sense of trauma and fear from local people, whether they were directly affected, of course, by those terrifying scenes this morning. I mean, that you can't really imagine how that would have affected them. But everybody in this area, you can see them standing outside their houses, peering out of their windows, leaning out of balconies, and just watching really the police come and go. The cordon that's been set up here, I'm at the edge of it, around 100 metres or so away down the road from Hainault itself. People desperate for information. You can imagine videos and photos of what happened this morning have been flooding local WhatsApp groups and people sharing them amongst themselves, trying to work out what happened and also trying to work out who those individuals were who've been taken to hospital after this incident, in which we know a vehicle drove into a house. That's certainly where police were first called out to, and then following reports of individuals being stabbed, with 2 officers, we understand, also hurt. As I said already, we don't know the situation of any of these individuals. We don't know their status, just that they have all been taken, all 5 of them, to hospital. We don't know if they're men or women. We don't even know their ages. We are awaiting a crucial update from the Metropolitan Police. Commander Stuart Bell should hopefully be appearing here behind me in the next few minutes or so for an update. But we, of course, have been speaking to people, and one local woman, Sylvia, told Skype Me
I need to find out
how scared
what's
she
happening
was,
with the
shouting that
SFV
she
vote of no
heard,
confidence
and the way really this has
against the
affected her.
government, not Yusuf himself.
I'm listening to a lot of hear voices in the morning, 7 o'clock, because my boys wake up 7 o'clock, put the alarm in the phone. And one my son say, "Mommy, what's happened outside?" I said, "I don't know, it's somebody maybe, I don't know, is fighting or this." And after I hear, is the police is coming. It's a little bit shocked because next to my road.
Look
Now,
at
we're
the
still
blood out
waiting
there,
for
the
a
blood on the
clearer
street.
timeline, and certainly the police will be trying to piece together minute by minute, second by second, what happened here, both before the incident, during it, and of course after. And that's why they've got such a huge crime scene set up, as they try to pick up
Look at
bits
that
of
dude in the
evidence. They
background,
try to
Jinky
map
put
out the
on his
area and,
best
of course,
shirt,
speak to any
his best
potential
suit, I mean.
witnesses,
I'm
people
going
who
to go and get
saw
myself on
individuals
TV.
involved before the incident, and people who may have got crucial footage of those moments, those terrifying moments in which we know a vehicle, a van, we think, seems to have been driven into a house, and then, of course, individuals having been stabbed. We've seen that footage, and certainly people very quickly talking about a man being seen in and around the Thurlow Gardens, Langclose area, with what was described at the time as a machete or a sword. Really, you cannot overstate the trauma that will have left many people in. And while police have been clear to say a 36-year-old man has been arrested, and this is not thought to be terror-related, of course, this is a local community that has been terrorised today.
And just tell us a little bit more about that community, Rachel. It looks like a very kind
When's
of quiet residential area.
something that isn't a terror attack,
It is. I mean, this
when
could
the
be
press
really
gets a
anywhere in the
hold of it.
country. I think this is a very quiet residential, as you've described it, area. I'm stood on New North Road, as I said, about 100 metres or so down the road away from Hainault Station, which is on the central line, so feeding through into central London. We've got terraced houses all along here. There's a block of flats just in front of me, 4 stories high. So you've got people living in this whole area. The odd shops here and there dotted around. But this seems to have been quite a main road, and you can actually see, really interestingly, abandoned buses where they were when this incident happened. I presume people, well, certainly the drivers will have left the buses there. People will have got off and cleared through the area. Lots of people trying to get home, people trying to get to work. Remember, this happened at just before 7 o'clock. On a Tuesday morning, so you can imagine the sort of people who would have been out and about, heading to that station, heading to their jobs, maybe children heading certainly to school, or children being dropped off at childminders. These are just normal people going about their lives, caught up in the most terrifying of situations.
Okay, Rachel, thanks very much for keeping us up to date. Rachel's down there where that press conference is due to start. We think it's been delayed a little bit further, so we're going to take a short break in the meantime. You are watching Sky News Today. Coming up, we will continue to bring you the very latest after a man with a sword is arrested after several people were stabbed near a London tube station.
There's legislation about the absolute allergies, and those are the things that we see in bold. But Sarah and I were looking at some packs just before we came on TV, and the amount of data there, you have to really work hard to wade through it. And if you're...
Filler. The Times.
Is the money man, essentially. He
Another
is someone
Rupert
who worked at the
Murdoch
bank.
outfit.
He spent Friday talking about the intricacies of setting up shell companies, which Michael Cohen allegedly did to hide these payments to Stormy Daniels and others. And so he's going to continue that testimony. We're going to get a little bit more detail about, I suppose, the intricacies of this actual scheme. He's definitely a lot less dramatic than the opening witness, David Pecker, who talked a lot about cash and kill and tabloid culture and their relationship with Donald Trump.
This does, though, lay the groundwork, doesn't it, Harriet, for Michael Cohen. He is going to be one of the star witnesses along with Stormy Daniels.
He is, yes. We don't know when they're going to be called. The prosecution are playing their cards extremely close to their chest, and that's very deliberate because Donald Trump is really pushing it in terms of talking about the trial. Of course, this isn't something that you should do, and he has been placed under a gag order because they want to try and stop him intimidating these witnesses. But he keeps on violating it. So the prosecutors are not announcing who their witnesses are going to be. We expect Michael Cohen will be later on in the trial. Of course, this trial is expected to last 6 weeks. But yes, Michael Cohen is absolutely pivotal to all of this.
So, Harriet, we're into the 3rd week. You're there in New York. Give us a sense about what it's like. Is this something that people are talking about every day, the trial? Is there still a high degree of interest?
You know, it's an interesting one, Lucy. I mean, there's a huge amount of media interest, of course. I mean, we're all kind of gripped by it. And it's been very interesting for the jury to really have the lid lifted on some of these New York tabloid practices. But actually, Manhattan, every day, you wouldn't really know it was going on. The city is very used to high-profile people arriving. Donald Trump, of course, lived here for many years. Even when he was president, he was in and out of the city. So, you know, sure, there's interest, but it's not the fever pitch, I don't think, that we saw when he was first convicted, where there was huge numbers of people outside the courtroom, both for and against Trump. Now we're not seeing that kind of circus. And I think maybe that's something that's a bit of a shock to Donald Trump himself.
It might be, Harriet. We can see live pictures of Trump Tower. It just looks very calm there this morning.
So,
there's usually
Anis Sarwar, the Labour dude, is not withdrawing his motion of no confidence in the Scottish government. So that's still to be voted on.
During high-profile
Can't really find
protests
out.
in the country, was sexually assaulted and killed by undercover agents working for the security forces. That's according to a leaked document obtained by a BBC World Service investigation.
See, that's where they let the reporting side of the BBC down, in the sense that they say this big, mad, crazy story and then go, well, it's according to a bit of paper we found on the toilet wall.
Nika Shakarami was 16 when she disappeared in September 2022 after telling a friend that police were chasing her. Her family found her body 9 days later. The authorities denied involvement in her death, claiming she took her own life. But what appears to be a classified report by Iran's Revolutionary Guards reveals the teenager was beaten to death by the agent.
It appears to be a report by the Revolutionary Guard or something, you know.
Who detained her. Reha Kansara from BBC Eye Investigations has this report for us, but a warning, you may find the details distressing.
This is the moment an ordinary teenage girl became an Iranian icon. Nika Shakarami is banning the hijab as part of the Women Life Freedom movement that swept Iran in September 2022. 9 days later, her mother found her dead. At the time, the Iranian government claimed that Nika had killed herself. But BBC Eye Investigations has obtained a document telling a very different story. It appears to be a classified report from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, part of Iran's security forces. We've translated it into English, and it summarises a secret hearing on Nika's case. According to the document, Nika was hunted down and arrested by Team 12, one of many undercover units at the protest. She was put in the back of their vehicle, an unmarked freezer truck, with her hands bound. The report includes the direct testimony of Team 12, explaining what happened next.
Arash gagged her mouth with his socks.
I saw Sadiq was sitting on her, with his hands in.
Sorry, man. We've even got voices and all that. It's fucking hilarious.
Safe as they possibly
That
can after
is
this all
hilarious.
this morning. But just to give us an update so far on what the police have confirmed and established took place this morning.
Graham, we're just going to pause there with you because we can hear now from a witness who has spoken to Sky News down there at the scene. He saw the arrest of the suspect.
There was a massive response from the police. There was loads of them. Must have been.
Well, it was
like
Danny Tormo there
dozen
for a second.
They've all ran up to where he was in the driveway, just shouting and sort of screaming at him to put the sword there. He had like a big samurai sword, and then and then they were screaming at him, and then he was just shouting back, and then they tased him, and then just about 7 or 8 of them just piled on top of him, and they was there probably for about 15 minutes. And then they literally picked him up off of the floor and sort of walked him into the back of the van, and then sort of took him away. They arrested him at 7:15.
Well, that was a witness there who says he saw the arrest happening. Graham, just in terms of what the situation is like for these police officers when they get down there on the scene, it must be very traumatic and quite frightening quite a lot of the time.
It is, and I've dealt with many similar incidents in my policing career, but at the time, you almost go into, it's like an autopilot, and I've described it before, it's like an out-of-body experience because your training kicks in. So all those times, and police officers moan usually about going to like officer safety training or personal safety training, self-defense, whatever you want to call it. But they generally will go there again and do it, and they take you through these scenarios. They come at you with like dummy knives and things, or two members of staff come and attack you and you have to defend yourself, and then a colleague comes in. So police officers generally sort of like moan about having to go through that training, but it's all about muscle memory. And it's on days like this when literally you respond to these types of calls, you jump out the car, and then you're actually facing someone with such a weapon. It's been described, as you heard there by that witness, as a samurai sword. That's a frightening, fearful weapon. And you are literally it's facing you. So your training does kick in. It's almost like muscle memory takes over. If you have taser, not all officers are taser equipped, but it sounds like they had some taser officers there with them. Then they deployed a taser. And again, it comes down to whether that taser then becomes effective, because Everything else you've got, your pepper spray and the baton, you've got to get literally almost like an arm's length from them. Now, with someone with a samurai sword, you don't want to be as close as arm's length from them. You need to be distance from them. So taser really, or even an armed unit, a firearms unit, the only way to deal with an assailant with this type.
Right. When is this fucking... Is that good there?
In the area said they heard screaming, and that you can see the police there who they were telling people to stay inside. Witnesses say they saw the attacker carrying a huge sword and they heard screams. One person described hearing someone shout, "She's being stabbed in the face." Roads in the area, of course, remain cordoned off and there remains a big police presence. You can see that police presence at the scene in East London. The whole area was cordoned off, and this is what stabbed
use of DVR
in the
and
later called shortly before 7 o'clock this morning to reports of a vehicle being driven into a house on Thurlow Gardens near Hainault station. Police said that the suspect had then attacked members of the public and 2 police officers. Now, London Ambulance Service later said 5 people were taken to hospital. Their condition is not known. Now, this is video that was filmed at the scene. You can see the officers there tackling the man. He's 36 and he had a sword and was arrested at the scene and is now in custody. The police said that the incident did not appear to be terror related. Now you can see a man there on the roof walking around, and that we were being told that that they were chased down an alley. People in the area said they heard screaming, and that you can see the police there who they were telling people to stay inside. Witnesses say they saw the attacker carrying a huge sword and they heard screams. One person described hearing someone shout, "She's being stabbed in the face." Roads in the area, of course, remain cordoned off and there remains a big police presence. You can see that police presence at the scene in East London. The whole area was cordoned off, and this is what some of the local residents said that they heard and saw.
The exact same shit you just said.
Still after the police officers came with the sword in his hand, looking for victims.
After 2 minutes, one lady come outside and was afraid and please ambulance, because him in my house. And he husband maybe or brother, I don't know, go outside and was all the hand was red.
Local people in Hainault were saying about what they saw this morning. This is the scene live, where, as I say, we are waiting for a police statement on the latest on that attack. 5 people were injured at the scene and they have been taken to hospital. They include 2 police officers, but we don't know what condition those 5 people are in. So we're hoping that this police statement will give us a bit more understanding of how injured those people are. Also about the investigation into what actually happened. As
When
I
the
said,
hell is this
36-year-old
fucking
man
press
has
conference
been
going to
arrested
happen, man?
at the scene. Lots of video on social media of him carrying a very large knife, which the police describe as a sword. So police describe it as a sword, a very long knife. People were saying they were screaming.
Why is there this weird thing about a knife or a sword, a knife or a sword?
Has said that he was absolutely devastated by the attack. You can see this is part of this chase that took place this morning. The 2 officers there, and witnesses described how they saw officers
3 officers, it
running
looks
down,
like.
Alleyways,
And
trying to tackle this
who's
man.
filming
And,
it? Member of the
Mayor
Charlie
London,
Beach, you
in
see
his
that
statement,
ambulance chasing?
thanked the emergency services for running towards danger. Sadiq Khan, in his statement, said that he remained in constant contact with the Commissioner and that there would be additional reassurance patrols in the area, because of course this would have been a terrifying incident that you can see from these video that was taken at the scene. How
Paint it as a
terrifying
terror
it was,
attack.
with a man with a giant knife running through
Well,
Hainault,
Tom
which
Milling.
is, as you can see,
Top right.
quite a suburban area, lots of housing
That's who
in
filmed
that
it.
area. And this happened first thing in the morning. Large area of the Hainault area has been cordoned off. At the time, the tube station was shut. Of course, it is on the Central Line, so a way that people get into work from Hainault into the centre of London. That was shut. The buses were diverted and the whole area sealed off. That area still sealed off at the moment as police begin that investigation to try and work out what has happened. The Home Secretary, James Cleverly, was asking anyone with any information to talk to the police, and Sadiq Khan, who did tweet that he was in constant contact with the Commissioner, saying he was absolutely devastated by the news from Hainault. He also urged people not to speculate until the details of the incident were confirmed by the police, and to avoid posting footage on social media. He said if anyone had any information, please to contact the police. Let's take you back to the live pictures from Hainault. This is where we are expecting that news conference, a statement from the police very shortly. Our correspondent Mark LaBelle is also at the scene. Mark, you're there. You've been talking to the local residents. What have they been saying to you?
They've been very worried. Many of them heard the commotion this morning. They didn't witness the actual event. They saw police cars flying in.
Guy in a fucking phone box or something?
Here. The road has now been cordoned off. There are a lot of questions, but very few answers for.
Describing lots of shouting, lots of screaming, perhaps at first thinking that they were witnessing a fight. They were overhearing something like that before realising actually that things were far, far more serious. And that, of course, accounting for the huge cordon that we still have several hours on, with a huge police presence picking through the evidence, speaking to witnesses and trying to work out what on earth unravelled here at just before 7 o'clock this morning. We've also spoken to Sylvia, who lives nearby, and again she described that sense of fear now really that has settled within her after she saw a little of it this morning.
I'm listened a lot of hear voices in the morning 7 o'clock, because my boys wake up 7 o'clock, put the alarm in the phone, and one my son say, "Mommy, what's happened outside?" I said, "I don't know, it's somebody maybe, I don't know, is fighting or this." And after I hear is the police is coming. It's a little bit shocked because next to my road.
And we understand actually that a police press conference is about to take place. Commander Stuart Bell, I believe, has just begun speaking behind me. You should be able to hopefully cross to that now.
From this suspect as he was approaching them. So the police will want to clear up all of that. They'll want to interview.
In the statement, purely because this is a very fast-moving incident, and we will, of course, I won't be taking any.
You should be able to hopefully cross to that now.
And afterwards, I won't be taking any questions, and if I do, I'll be referring back to the information in the statement, purely because this is a very fast-moving incident, and we will, of course, share as much information as we can when we get the detail and we can share it. You will be aware that a serious incident occurred here at this location this morning. Police and ambulance services were called and deployed to a number of casualties. It is with great sadness that I confirm that one of those injured in the incident, a 13-year-old boy, has died from their injuries. He was taken to hospital after being stabbed and sadly died a short while after. The child's family are being supported firstly by my local officers and now with some specialist officers, and everyone across the Met is keeping them in our thoughts at this unimaginably difficult time.
What did the 13-year-old
The events of this morning are truly horrific, and I cannot even begin to imagine how those affected must be feeling. My thoughts are with the injured, their families and the wider community as we all begin to come to terms with what has happened and try to understand what has happened here. I know that there will be, clearly and understandably, a desire for answers and an explanation as to what happened. Our investigation is in its very early stages, and my officers are working right now to establish the full facts as a priority, and we will share what we can when we can with the wider community and, of course, with yourselves. A 36-year-old is currently in custody. He was tasered here at the scene and arrested 22 minutes after the first call was made to police shortly before 7 a.m. this morning. I want to confirm at present that we do not believe there is any ongoing threat to the wider public, and we're not seeking any other persons. The incident does not appear to be linked to any act of terrorism. We know now that during the incident, 5 people were injured, 3 members of the public and 2 of my local officers who were responding to the call. 2 of those members of the public remain in hospital. Thankfully, their injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. The 2 Met police officers are also currently in hospital with stab wounds. Both require surgery and have significant injuries, but we believe at this stage that they were not life-threatening. I commend the incredible bravery of not just the police officers but the other emergency responders who came to this scene this morning. I would ask anyone with information or any footage that would help us with this investigation to share that and call 101, please. I know the families of those involved, the local and wider community, and many across London will want to know why this terrible incident occurred. And it's our job to find that out, and we will. I am committed to providing those answers when we can, and I would ask for some patience while this important work is carried out. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Bell, was the man arrested yesterday?
The male was arrested this morning at the scene.
Was he previously arrested?
I'm not going to be commenting on any of those questions other than the information that I've released. We will share that information when we feel it's appropriate and when we know the answers. Okay.
Was the suspect known to the police, sir? Was the suspect known to the police?
So we do not believe this to be a targeted attack, and we are establishing the circumstances at the moment. Okay, thank you.
Was the suspect known to the police, sir?
No further questions.
Don't believe it to be a
Well,
targeted
that's
attack.
their Chief
What the
Superintendent
fuck happened then?
Stuart Bell, who leads policing in the local
Would it
area,
be another
giving an
schizo
update.
fucking
and the
let out
headline
for the
from
loony
that
bin fucking
news
doing
conference is
crap
desperately
with us?
sadly, a 13-year-old boy died in that attack in a residential area in Hainault this morning. Stuart Bell there saying he didn't believe it to be a targeted attack, in his words at the end there, not believed to be terrorist related. He commended the bravery of police and the other emergency services.
So, a schizophrenic or some shite? What's happening with a stream? Anywho, wee interesting insight in it. Let's see what the BBCs are saying to it. They're a wee bit behind, or am I just not on the button? Shit.
As soon as they possibly could. He gave us details about the 36-year-old man who is in custody. He said that he was tasered at the scene and he was arrested 22 minutes after the first call was made and police attended the scene. Now, Chief Superintendent Stuart Bell also reiterated what they had said earlier, which is that they do not believe there is any link to terrorism, and they do not believe right now there is any issue for the wider community. He went on to talk about those 5 people who were injured. We heard that the 13-year-old boy did sadly die from his injuries in hospital. There are 2 other members of the public in hospital, but the Chief Superintendent said that their injuries were not life-threatening. He also talked about how 2 of his officers who attended the scene were also injured. He said that they had stab wounds and that they had undergone surgery, But he did say at the moment he didn't believe that their injuries were life-threatening. The Chief Superintendent went on to commend the bravery of everyone who came to the scene, the first responders. He was talking not only about the police, but members of the public who were also there. He then asked if anyone had any footage or any information to bring that to the police, but he said that the local community will want answers. But he pleaded for them to be patient while this investigation continues. You saw that he was asked questions about the arrested man, but he wouldn't take any questions about that incident. So we have that news that has come from the superintendent that a 13-year-old boy has died from his injuries after that stabbing incident in Hainault. There are 4 other people in hospital. 2 don't have life-threatening injuries and 2 police officers who have had surgery. Now on BBC News, the 1 o'clock news with Clive Myrie.
At 1, a man is arrested after a 13-year-old boy dies and 4 others are injured, attacked with a sword. Witnesses heard screams in a residential area of Hainault in northeast London early this morning.
It is with great sadness that I confirm that one of those injured in the incident, a 13-year-old boy, has died from their injuries. Taken to hospital after being stabbed and sadly died a short while after.
Our other main story is the return of King Charles to major public duties, visiting a cancer treatment centre. The BBC discovers staff who abused children in so-called calming rooms at a special school in northeast London were not sacked.
It was a cell, but the only crime David has is special needs.
We're on board a Philippine Coast Guard ship in the South China Sea, confronted by the Chinese.
This Coast Guard ship has come so close now, there's only perhaps 40 or 50 metres between us. This is a very aggressive tactic.
And the BBC cameraman crew were just there.
At Eurovision, we catch up with Michael Flatley.
Sound.
As we all begin to come to terms with what has happened and try to understand what has happened here. I know that there will be, clearly and understandably, a desire for answers and an explanation as to what happened. Our investigation is in its very early stages, and my officers are working right now to establish the full facts as a priority, and we will share what we can when we can with the wider community and, of course, with yourselves. A 36-year-old is currently in custody. He was tasered here at the scene and arrested 22 minutes after the first call was made to police shortly before 7 a.m. this morning. I want to confirm at present that we do not believe there is any ongoing threat to the wider public, and we're not seeking any other persons. The incident does not appear to be linked to any act of terrorism. We know now that during the incident, 5 people were injured, 3 members of the public and 2 of my local officers who were responding to the call. 2 of those members of the public remain in hospital. Thankfully, their injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. The 2 Met police officers are also currently in hospital with stab wounds. Both require surgery and have significant injuries, but we believe at this stage that they were not life-threatening. I commend the incredible bravery of not just the police officers but the other emergency responders who came to this scene this morning. I would ask anyone with information or any footage that would help us with this investigation to share that and call 101, please. I know the families of those involved, the local and wider community, and many across London will want to know why this terrible incident occurred. And it's our job to find that out, and we will. I am committed to providing those answers when we can, and I would ask for some patience while this important work is carried out. Thank you for your time.
Let's cross to our correspondent Rachel Venables, who is at the scene. Rachel, we knew what happened this morning was awful. In Chief Superintendent Stuart Bell's words, they were truly horrific, and the saddest news that a 13-year-old boy died there this morning.
Well, we were dreading an update like that perhaps a person had lost their life, but the age of the victim, a 13-year-old boy, really has taken everyone here by real shock and a real sense of tragedy, I think. You can only imagine, of course, particularly for this young boy's family, but also for the officers involved, for everybody who was here in Hainault this morning. And I think that was quite an emotional update, in fact, from Chief Superintendent Stuart Bell giving that press conference, Commander Stuart Bell giving that press conference a little earlier today, talking in detail about what happened. He said that the 36-year-old man was arrested 22 minutes after they were first called out to the scene. He described the other four individuals who were stabbed in this incident. Two of them, he said, were his officers, local officers, of course, who will have run to the area trying to help, trying to save lives. They now in hospital awaiting surgery, though thankfully he said that their condition is not believed to be life-threatening, but of course still a significant worry, of course, their health, and two other individuals as well, also in hospital, though again he's saying that their conditions are not thought to be life-threatening. So really all, I think, thoughts and attention now goes to that 13-year-old boy, his family and friends as well, who just never could have imagined that a Tuesday morning, we don't know what he was doing, possibly plans, of course, to go to school could have ended in such abject tragedy. He talked at the end, of course, about trying to reassure the public that he will get to the bottom of this, and that is very much the focus now of the police. Of course, it is a murder investigation, we have to remember this has become, and that adds to the seriousness of the work that they have to do in gathering evidence, in speaking to witnesses, in trying to understand what led to this, but also what happened during those 22 minutes between the police being called and an individual being arrested. And he asked for the public's patience at this time. He said, well, they tried to do that really critical investigative work, which now will be driving them, while at the same time he said the family of this 13-year-old boy is being supported. And of course, we've heard about the local people being really traumatised by this, officers as well, I'm sure, no doubt, really affected by what's happened. And I think, as I said already, it was quite an emotional statement by Stuart Bell as he gave us just in the past 20 minutes or so here in Hainault.
And Rachel, what reaction has there been from local people down there to the events of the morning?
Real sorrow, real fear. This is a residential area. Many people describing how it's a relatively safe area. We're here in northeast London, bordering onto Essex. It's a sort of area which is popular with commuters, people using the train station to travel via the Central Line into London. But really, I'm surrounded by houses here and families, small shops, local businesses and schools. It's just an ordinary area where people live and go to work and would never expect something as horrifying and violent like this to happen. And actually a little earlier Sky News spoke to a local man called Chris who actually witnessed the arrest, what he described chiming very much with the timing that we got from Stuart Bell a little earlier, but he also described the shouting, the police investigation, and of course no doubt he, like everybody else, deeply affected by this news that a 13-year-old boy has lost his life.
There was a massive response from the police. There was loads of them. Must have been like at least a dozen of them. And they've all ran up to where he was in the driveway, just shouting and sort of screaming at him to put the sword there. He had like.
Well, I'll leave it there. Everybody can get on with their day. So, the poll, 24 votes. Is Scottish independence dead? At least for the next 10 years. Yes, 67. No, 17. No, sure, 17. So I'll end that there. Ready? Remember, if you do enjoy your daily dose of PoliTITS, get a wee thumbs up and sub and all that jazz. I'm going to go and get on with the rest of my day now that I know what we're meant to be talking about today. Thanks to the news cycles. Get it, got it, good. And remember, terror attack in Jerusalem. Lovely. Catchies.
Clips, clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of